Good evening, everyone. Welcome to At the Bar With podcast. Tonight we have a very special guest, Matt Vernon. He'll be on camera here in a moment. As always, I'm here with my co-host, Stacy, in the back. As you see, Patrick, streaming in from Sacramento, California. And welcome. Matt, say hello.
Hey, everybody.
I got a special deal here for Matt. We got Smithwick's Red Ale for the beverage of choice this evening.
Is that your beverage of choice?
You know, there's a great bar by my house on Lake Street. Just plug Merlin's Rest, and they have Smithwick's on tap, which is, you know, something you don't find every day. So that's the first time I've heard it. So I'm really stoked, Brett, that you found a Smithwick's Red.
Found a Smithwick's Red.
Yeah. You are the man.
So, bartender, what makes it a red?
It's just a different kind of ale. That's all.
Is it like a lighter ale?
Caramelization and stuff like that. But
Blood.
No.
Blood wine.
Coloring number 7.
Yeah.
And it's in a Guinness glass, so
Yeah.
We'll have to.
Yeah.
Well, it's Smithwick's is made by the same company as Guinness, so.
And I'm drinking a Malbec.
Patrick, what do you got?
Thank you, Brett.
I'm doing my usual bourbon neat with the Golden State cider, Mighty Dry.
Nice.
Mighty
Golden.
Dry.
Delicious.
Golden State lost, didn't they? In fashion.
All right.
Not in cider, but
Cilantro.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cilantro.
Yep.
Cilantro.
All right.
Kumpai.
Good stuff.
Mm.
So, Brett, you're not mixing it today.
I will be.
Oh, okay.
Matt, would you like to have a sample of cognac, Jameson cold brew, or maybe a single malt?
You know, I'm going to just stick with the beer for now.
For now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Get into it. I'll have
And,
a little. Yep.
Okay.
No, I mean, you're not mixing your beer with the
No, I'm just going to have
the cider.
it straight.
Usually, because he mixes it with
I usually do a poor man's black velvet, so Guinness and with a strongbow, a hard cider on the bottom, and then Guinness floated on top. It was pretty tasty.
I like it.
So you're sticking to the hard stuff this time.
I'm going to stick to the straight Guinness.
Let's bring back some memories.
Yeah, indeed. Let me grab some ice here.
So I read your bio a little bit,
Hey.
and I'm very, very, very intrigued. But you know, it's funny because I was looking at it, I was like, God, you know, we're all cohorts. So it's like not too many times you get all 85 graduates.
Mm.
And you went to Moundsview Public Schools. Well, I went to Irondale.
Oh, okay.
And
Right.
and you taught.
Yeah.
You teach in Minneapolis Public Schools? Do you still teach?
I don't know.
You don't? Okay.
Yeah.
So I taught in Minneapolis Public Schools
Oh,
as
you
well.
did?
And also went to St. Thomas, graduate from St. Thomas.
Wow.
So
Sweet.
yeah, and I was a Cub Scout, a Weeble, and a Boy Scout, so I spent a lot of times outdoors in the wilderness. So I
Nice.
love that too, and fishing and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
it's like seems like we're
great.
and then you also not married or have kids.
Yeah.
I'm not married or have kids, so
Okay.
you know, kind of walking the same path here.
Yeah. That way. Well met,
yeah,
Stacy.
yeah. You know, it's probably funny because we probably crossed paths at some point. If you grew up here in Shoreview, I grew up in Moundsview. You know, I was right up Highway 10. And
Yeah.
So, how was your Moundsview experience?
You know, I don't know. I think, you know, like anybody in high school is just sort of a kind of passing through. You
Passing
know?
through, okay.
Yeah. So it was
What
all
group
right.
did you run in?
I ended up playing sports like hockey and soccer and track. So
Oh, you
I
did?
kind of hung out with athletes a lot and just people I don't know, just kind of wandered through. Honestly.
They used to pick on me.
Oh yeah, well I was not really a jock, like
Oh, like that.
like that kind of stuff. So
Okay.
and then
What was your favorite subject in high school?
Lunch.
None.
Did you have a favorite teacher or favorite subject? You didn't?
High school.
Mine was mythology. I remember.
Oh, that's a great course.
Yeah, it was.
That
It
would
was
be
really fun.
great.
Yeah.
Oh,
So-
yeah.
So, I am a Mounds viewer as well. I met Matt Way back when.
I'm trying to remember. Yeah, when did you?
I think I was
move
like
on into the small Snail Lake area block.
God, I think I was like 8 years old, 8 or 10, right around in there.
Yeah.
And then Matt was in the neighborhood with our friend Gary, and then there was Kenny, and there's the four of us, and we were the Four Musketeers. For
Sounds like
for
South
years.
Park.
Yeah, we totally was South Park.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of funny because that's kind of how it was.
Yeah.
So, I remember growing up with you. You were like the outdoors type. I mean, you were always doing stuff outdoors, and you got me and Kenny to go to Camp Widgiwaga when we were younger. And I remember when you were 18, you did was it the Voyager trip?
Yeah.
So you spent like 3 months on trail up in the Quetico and Northwest Territories, correct?
Yeah, it was about a 50-day trip in Northwest Territories. Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah. Arctic. Yeah.
Wait. Where is that again?
Well, now they call it New. I'm gonna just butcher this. It's Nunavut. I probably need to Google it. But it's returned to indigenous name. So Canada did that, I think 15
in Canada
20 years ago. Yeah.
Okay.
So it kind of borders on the Arctic Ocean and Hudson's Bay and
Okay.
kind of the tundra above tree line there. So
Did you ever have Mr. Brobin at Mounds View?
I did not have Brobin.
Did you know?
I heard he's a good teacher.
I went to the Bighorn Mountains with him.
Oh.
Yeah, so Irondale had that, and Mounds View did it the second year. So after my senior year, I went with a group from Mounds View to the Bighorn Mountain, did the Bighorn Mountain backpacking trip, and that was great. He was a great teacher.
Yeah.
Where's Camp Widgiwagan?
Well, that was wasn't it Burnside Lake? Up in Ely is where the base camp is. And I remember when we were younger, they had different lengths of time you could be on trail. So you could be in the BWCA, be in the Quetico, which is Canada, and you'd go on these trips. So you would plan this trip. You take these big, what they call Duluth packs. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
And then you just pack up stuff for your trip, and then you had your tents and your canoes. And I remember
We were on a 3-day trip?
23. That's right. Yeah. And some of those guys didn't you, like when you did your Voyager trip, didn't you get sponsored by Old Town Canoes and Clement paddles and stuff?
Trying to remember, we got sponsored. Well, it's a time when I was on the trip as a camper. I think, we got sponsored by like rain gear companies, and I got some Gore-Tex gear and not really paddles, but I ended up leading 2 trips. Yeah, into the Arctic as a job. So I went on and worked, and we got sponsored different paddles. And
Thank you, sir. May I have another?
It was kind of like it was sort of for me like that. That's what I did. That's the only thing I really wanted to do. I was going through college, and then when I was out of college, I was just like, well, I'll work stupid jobs because in the summer I'm gonna go, sit in be out in the wilderness for 3 months. That was all I really wanted to do. That and play guitar. So.
What a great job to have. Because I mean, when we went on trail, I think we were at Explorer 2, Explorer 1, Explorer 2 we did together. So we did like a 2-week and then a 3-week. We're on trail, went up to the Quetico, and we had the what ABS boats we called the Tupperware boats, canoes made out of almost like a PVC, and
we had a wood canoe, I'm sure.
Yeah, we did.
A wood canvas canoe.
Right. Were you with us when I think it was me and Kenny were on trail once with that big Nord canoe?
Oh, I can't believe you guys did that.
We took that out on our Explorer trip, so 2 weeks on trail with that thing, and that thing weighed like 800 pounds.
That's
like
hardcore.
12 people, and we were doing this along like a mile long portage, and one of the guys stepped on a hornet's nest, and everyone got stung because you flip this big 800-pound canoe, and you're underneath it as you're walking. It takes takes 6 to 8 people to walk this thing.
And you can't see anything but your feet.
And all of a sudden they're getting stung, but they didn't toss the canoe. They stuck with it.
It's drilled into you so hard that canoe is sacred, and you're willing to lose a limb for it.
And you could hear them screaming and swearing, but then they went and fixed them up, and we were back on trail. But that thing cruised, you'd get all of us going. That thing would just haul.
Yeah.
I mean, and
It held 8 people.
yeah, well, more than that. I think it held like
8 or 9.
8 or 9. I think 9 total.
And gear.
In gear,
In
yeah.
gear, wow.
And
Did it
these-
have a big mermaid on the front?
Well, and these Duluth packs are not small; they're big, and they weigh about between 80 and 100 pounds each. So not
Food
only
pack.
are you portaging that canoe, you've got a pack on your back too.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I mean, it was a real deal, and and I remember when you went to the Voyager trip, we're like, God, that's going to be awesome. So what was it?
That-
What was it like being on trail for over
Yeah.
literally 2 months and being that far north and cut off from
No cell phone.
Yeah, no cell
No,
phone.
nothing.
These
Yeah.
are
We didn't
days
even have
before
cell
cell
phones,
phones.
But
Before cell
Well,
phones.
yeah.
now,
Yeah.
weren't you? Was it the Mud River that you guys took as part of it, or?
Well, so I've done that trip I did after high school. We did a river called Camillequac, kind of which flowed into DeBont Lake, which is a huge, kind of like Mille Lacs, I guess.
Wow.
Lake kind of sitting there. There's a lot of big lakes up there. And then that particular trip, we had a lot of wind and a lot of ice. So we ended up getting to this big lake, and there was a fly-in fishing camp there, and we had to pull the ripcord on that trip at about day 42 because we weren't going to make it to Hudson's Bay at that point. So,
Oh wow.
Wow.
so that was interesting. That learned a lot from that. But it's kind of things are mixed and blessing because you're windbound, but like in the middle, that trip there's a 50,000 caribou migration kind of running through, and so it was interesting. It was hard to be stranded so much, a lot of wind, a lot of ice.
Right.
And then there are 2 trips I did. I did the Back River, which is a totally amazing trip.
Now, these were the company, or did you, or just organize
This was
it
with
yourself?
Camp YMCA, Camp Widgewagon.
Okay.
Mhm.
Really phenomenal, wilderness stripping
Yeah.
camp
Oh,
in,
God.
out of
Great.
Ely.
Yep.
And then there's I'll put in a plug for Minojin too, since
Right,
they're
yeah.
another out of the Minneapolis wise. They're up on Gunflint Trail, do similar kind of
Gunflint.
stuff.
Yep.
We were there.
Yep.
hmm But great camps, and I'm telling you, man, it
Yep.
really, it really gives you self-confidence in what you can do because, when you have to be self-sufficient,
Oh, yeah.
and you got to be able to learn how to cook.
Did you use a pine cone?
No, we did not use a pine cone, but we had a shovel and we had to dig our own little.
So yeah, and those trips, the only emergency gear we had this little box, and because there's no roads, you fly in, you get dropped off, and then you paddle. And then one trip, our pickup was a plane coming up and pick us up on the Arctic Ocean. The other one was there's a bay off of Hudson's Bay this was on a different trip, but you're not seeing anybody for 7 weeks plus, and there's no roads, no people, very few people up there. So you
Did
have this
you-
little box, and then
Right.
if someone life or death, you flip it, picks up on the AWACS
Oh,
at the
geez,
time
yeah.
missile radar.
Oh.
That for the
Hey, AWACS,
So
American.
I mean, if you think about it, if you got injured,
Yep.
Like remember when I got injured, I had my spleen torn in half years ago, and if
You're dead. You'd
yeah,
die.
if I would have died.
Yep.
In an accident like that, there's no way you're going anywhere but 6 feet under,
Yeah.
and real quick.
And they won't send a chopper out for 24 hours. They'll pick it up. The blip will come up, and
Yeah.
then if it's still on for 24 hours, they'll send a chopper. So yeah, you got to be careful.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, wow. Now, when you were there, you saw caribou? Did you see any, grizzly or Kodiak? And
Yep, had a grizz coming to camp one day, check us out.
jeez.
That was fun. Wolves, saw a pack of wolves hunting muskox, which was really
Okay.
pretty
Wow.
cool.
You guys fish up there?
Oh god, the fishing is just
Oh, I bet.
It's nothing. It's nothing. like
easiest
here.
thing in the world.
Yeah.
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 There's a-
Between high school and college, I spent the summer in Alaska in Gustavus, which is just outside of Juneau, right by Glacier Bay National Park.
Nice.
And we had The Salmon River ran right next to where our lodge was. And you're right. I wanted fresh fish for dinner if we didn't catch it on the boat for the customers that day, because we would also, as the captain and the deckhand also had, I think it's a limit of 2 or 3 salmon per day up there or whatever, and 2 halibut, but we counted. So we would fish. So we'd get the max. So we'd have house fish, for dinner for the staff. But yeah, you would just drop a red devil in there and you're catching a 30-pound salmon easy.
Oh,
it was so awesome.
We used to kind of do it because sometimes you don't want the big fish. We didn't want them because you couldn't eat it all. So you just keep fishing. Oh, this one's too big. Oh, that one's just because pretty much every cast you're gonna catch a fish.
Right.
Mostly
It's crazy.
walleye, or what are you catching?
Lake trout.
Lake
mostly,
trout,
and then
mostly?
sometimes some Arctic char. which are
Okay.
really tasty.
What's your favorite up there to catch, to eat?
Well, there's only 2 things I caught, like lake trout or
Oh.
Arctic char. So,
Okay.
yeah.
I remember one of our explore trips that we were on in Whitefish Bay. I think it was you caught that monster walleye.
Really?
Yeah,
Huh.
we were on an island and we were coming across this drop. There was this big sheer drop that went into the water. It's just rock. And I remember being in there and you were tossing the line and all of a sudden it just went and you pulled in. It must have been like 12-pound. If I remember right. I remember because that was the biggest walleye I've ever seen. And then we cooked that thing up. It didn't even throw. That's feeding all of us.
It was luck.
Fresh
Yeah.
walleye, so
It
good.
was huge.
Yeah.
The thing looked like it was prehistoric,
Yeah.
but it tasted so good.
Yeah. It's
And I remember, I can't remember the counselor's name that was with us, but he was
is that Paul Berg. Was that his name?
it could, yeah.
Does he play guitar?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
And man, he was a good cook. He knew how to cook.
Yeah.
I don't know if he brought his guitar on that trip. He might
I
have.
think he did.
I think he
yeah.
did.
That's the only trip I had with him.
Yeah, so he did. Yeah. So that was really cool because you and I played guitar and he was a good guitarist, but
Yeah.
man, he knew how to cook, and you guys go out and get the fish and we'll make it up. So, but the thing that I really liked about that camp is that, again, it really taught us how to, be self-sufficient. It gave us confidence in what we do and that we could accomplish things. Having those portages, long portages, you get tired, you get fatigued, your shoulders are aching. All those things are going on
Getting bit.
by mosquitoes or bees or hornets and stuff like that. But you weathered through it, and it just kind of taught me how to stick with things.
Having grit.
Having grit and sticking with it. You know what? If it doesn't happen right away, you keep at it until it happens.
Yep.
So I really enjoyed my time doing that, but it was awesome.
Yeah.
Now you were a counselor there too.
Yeah.
For a few years.
Yeah. I went in deep.
Yeah.
We kind of joke about it. That's kind of a cult,
Yeah.
because they these wood canoes, and they drill you on holding the pack the certain way and flipping the canoe a certain way, so we kind of call it a cult because you get kind of brainwashed into it. But yeah, I did.
It's almost
Did for
it's like the military for nature lovers.
Yeah.
It really was
Was it?
because you knew you had to pack the pack the
Certain way,
correct
yep.
way to get everything in.
Take care of your
perfectly.
gear.
Take care of your
That's all you
gear.
got.
You had to lift the canoe a certain way, and you had to do it right. And you got good at it. So instead of flopping around, all of a sudden you're flipping that thing over and you're going. If you have it angled a certain way, you can go a little bit longer. But yeah, it was like military for nature.
There's something to be said about uniformity, I'll tell you. I
But
agree.
it was great. So I mean, that hats off to you for going up there and spending. I mean, what a job to have.
It's kind of the way I look at it. For me, it's sort of what I wanted to do. I didn't really even think about it. I was just like, this is just what I'm going to keep doing as long as I can do it. Fall into something like that. You just keep going.
Yeah, and that's why it's like it was hard for me. Even being a bartender for years, I was between 4 walls.
Yeah.
Most of the time I couldn't even see. I didn't even know what was going on outside. So most of my career, I had to have friends come to see me, and I was in a box, and it just drove me nuts. I'm like, man, this is not the kind of thing that I want to do because I'm kind of stuck in this box. I want to be outside. I want to be doing stuff. And maybe that's probably why law enforcement was attracted to law enforcement, because I could be outside, meeting people, helping people, being
Meeting all
outside.
sorts of interesting people.
True.
And they're usually doing really well when you meet these people. That's the peak of their life. It's like the most positive, optimistic thing that you could come across when you meet these people, right?
Well, yeah, and I got
it's like the old adage, no one calls a cop on a good day, right? Like it's
no. But I mean, what was cool about the job though is there's a unit that dealt with folks that are homeless and going through addiction problems and stuff like that. So I did that for quite a few years, and I became a certified for community outreach. I was certified as a housing assessor. I was certified in trauma informed interviewing to be able to get people to trust me and say, hey, just because I have a badge and a gun doesn't mean I'm going to take you to jail. But also going through a lot of these other trainings to understand what addiction is and what it does to people and why people are homeless and stuff like that. So it really did kind of set the tone for me in law enforcement and how to look at people, how to deal with people. And sometimes it was like you had to be, you kind of had to take a breath and go, you know what, I can look the other way. And there's a lot of other times where it's like it was necessary to be firm and take people to jail and do that kind of stuff, because at least you could get them into the process, because I wasn't, had I left them on the street, I would be, it'd be a funeral.
I think I know the answer to this, but because I was a police explorer back when I was a teenager, I kind of wanted to be a cop too. But I think I know the answer is because I've got you as a friend, Brett, Mike. My cousin was a cop. But would you say 8 out of 10 calls or 9 out of 10 calls involve either drugs or alcohol? I mean, it's got to be like almost all of them, right? Like,
well, in being that I'm in an inner city, I'm an inner city cop, so I'm not like a suburban cop. Suburban cops deal with different stuff. I mean,
mine was domestic related.
Domestic, or it's traffic. But being an inner city cop, you're always dealing with, people that have addiction problems, alcohol problems, homelessness. Yep. And with that comes, other problems. They rob or steal. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, though, it's that fight or flight mentality, that people have, that they're always fighting for their life. Basically, that's how they live. Everything, any moment could be the moment that they die, and that's how they live. So they don't look at it. They look at it as, I need what you have more than you need it, so I'm going to take it. And that's kind of the mentality. And we can look at it all day long and say, hey, that's the dumbest thing to think. That's stupid. You're stupid. How can you think that way? But when you live on the street, it's a different mentality. Again,
I've donated 2 mountain bikes over the years to people that need it.
Yeah.
I was watching a podcast.
But
I'm not gonna. Yeah.
But that's how they look at it. I mean, and that's kind of the deal. I mean, I hate to say it, but with these homeless camps, they pop up, and it's all there's nothing but drugs, and the problem is when you are at the lowest point in your life and you don't care anymore. I mean, drugs.
It's the only thing that makes you feel better.
Makes them feel better. But then there's rapes, and then there's murders, and then there's stuff like that happens later, because then the predators come out. There's a lot of infighting in those camps, right? And it's difficult, because you're trying to help the people that really need the help, and then all of a sudden these predators move in, and they've got places to go. They don't. And
you could have a tiny home community that the people pay for, and then the drug dealers or gangs will come in and take it over and use it for bad purposes.
It's funny because I was watching a podcast today, and they were talking about there's a new generation of homeless, and they're the kids that want to be homeless. They're doing it for excitation, just to go out. My cousin did this. When he turned 18, he just started jumping trains, and he went all the way to New York, and he lived under a bridge, and they're just young youth that want to just explore. And I'm sure this is probably like the backpackers that go to Europe and sleep in hostels and just I don't want any responsibility. I just want to live life, and see what it's about type thing.
And it's like I work like inner city, like Matt. I mean, you live in, in an inner city environment as well. I mean, you must see a lot of stuff that goes on right on your front door.
Yeah, what you're talking about is, I see it from my house. So we had a vacant lot across the street. The house, was they had a fire. It was vacant for a while, and the attic started showing up living in that. Was boarded up. Finally got it raised, and now I see him. But yeah, I live we're pretty close to the old 3rd precinct there. And,
Okay.
By Lake Street.
Yep, half a block up Lake Street.
Okay.
So
How have things?
yeah, you got a lot of the theft.
Yeah.
So someone needs a grill, they're gonna come take it out of your backyard. Whatever they need. You are the kind of your neighborhood's a little bit of the supermarket for people who need stuff. So and
Yeah.
I totally understand your perspective, but it's great to hear your perspective, Brad. I haven't heard this side of you.
But
before.
in California,
And-
I found it interesting that they actually kind of, I don't know if it's just in California, but they've kind of categorized what the population is. And I think Stacy just added a 4th, but there was 3 main categories of people that are well beyond help because they're just mentally ill. They need to be in a hospice situation or hospital situation. And so that might be 25% of the homeless population. Then you got 50% who are just alcohol and drugs, and they don't want help. They just want to do their thing. They want to keep doing what they're doing. And then the 3rd category was there's like 25% that literally can't afford housing, but they might be living in their car. They might be living somewhere, but they might have a job or they might be going to school. So, and then now people are doing it for entertainment purposes, I guess. So there's a 4th category there. But I think you got to, this is such a complex issue, and I have a lot of feelings about it because I see it every day in Sacramento. But it is, it's like, I think you have to have an approach that helps the people that want the help. The problem is you can go into a camp with 200 people. One person might take the shelter.
Yeah, because
you have to be clean and sober.
Yep, and that's what they don't want to do. Yeah.
Well, but
They
but
don't want
that's
the shelter, but because
Right.
they have to be clean. So it's
and that's
I
and
don't
that's
know what you do with it.
right, and
I
that's the
honestly
one
don't.
thing. I mean,
California is such a scale. The
Yeah.
scale is just
just
completely
monsters.
different than here.
Yeah,
But
Most of
Patrick,
them are
your
here.
point is right, because I mean, when we would go and try to give help to a lot of people, I helped a lot of people. I did.
Right.
I got them in housing. I got them into treatment options, mental health stuff. I helped a lot of people, and of course, you're going to have people that are going to fall back in those ways, and I'm there for them, and I've helped out a lot of people. But there are people that simply don't want the help because it means rules. It means, I can't smoke my fentanyl or meth or whatever they have. I can't drink. I have to follow rules. I might as well just stay in the tent out here because then I can do what I want to do. So, yeah, I don't want
Don't
the
they
help.
have curfews too?
There's curfews. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
correct. So, so you get a lot of people that are like, this is my life and I'm just going to be me and I don't need your help. Thank you. But no, thank you. So those are the type of people that don't want the help. You can't help them. You can't, it's like bringing a horse to water. You can't make it drink. They don't want the help. They don't want the help. And it's unfortunate because I've had discussions with people that became my what I call my people, the people that I would help. I had a group of people that I would talk to all the time that wanted to help, but then they would, fall back into the problematic behavior. And I remember talking to one guy, I'm like going, listen, and he was really messed up. I'm like, man, we got to get you into treatment. No, I got a treatment. It's set up next week. Look, here, it's on the calendar. I just have one more week. And I'm like, dude, you're not going to last a week. You are not. I'm going to find you dead. I'm going to find you dead on that bench over there. And I'd say 6 days later, guess where I found him? Dead on the bench that I pointed at and said I'd find you dead there. Now, his buddy's there. Now, when they say honor among thieves, there is no honor among thieves because as he was overdosing, he could have been saved, but his supposed friends went through his backpack, took all his drugs, took all his belongings, and then went to the other side of the park and watched him die and let him die because if he were to be saved, then he would have found out that they stole from him. So they let him die. And he died, and just it just breaks your heart when you see in that kind of lifestyle. This is what's going on. That's someone's child, and that he's probably got a kid somewhere. That's someone's dad. So I always try to keep an open mind about, how people got there. You can look at it this way. Well, nobody put a gun to your head to do this. It's your fault.
It's such a multivariate problem, though, is what we see is that there's so many reasons, and some of the things can even happen genetically to your traits. Like I talk about all the time. I mean, if you're a low trait extroversion and you're high trait neuroticism, and you have that anxiety all the time, and you want to you're worried about life all the time. I mean, people are just born this way. It's a difficult thing, and
right.
And then they have something traumatic happen to them, which is hard to deal with. And the problem is that it's so multivariate that one fix of a problem is not going to help anybody else. It's just going to help a very small group.
Well, and the big problem is that you have so many predators out there that are feeding on people that need help. I mean, that's what they do, and those are the people that I went after. I would really work hard. I would set things up as a sergeant.
Who was vulnerable, and you knew who was not supposed to be around vulnerable person, and you'd be like, hey.
Well, and as a sergeant, I would set things up, and there was one guy every time I saw him, I would arrest him. I'd have a reason to arrest him. I'd find a reason. I'd arrest him because he was responsible for the deaths of at least 2 people by dealing drugs to them that were bad, and these guys overdosed. But you can't pin it on them, so we'd go after those people.
Did you have proper probable cause, Brett?
Well, I did when he was in places that he was not supposed to be. So we'd pick him up for trespass.
I say that because online there's this Judge Fleischman, wherever he is. He wears a bow tie and he's a skinny little white guy behind a bench. But he does reels on YouTube, and it's usually 90% of it are probable cause hearings. And so he's like, they found this black man walked across the street. The cop stopped him for jaywalking, found pot on him. And he's like, oh, walking while black? That's what you're doing? Okay, no probable cause. Bye.
Yeah.
And then he tells young black man, be safe. Don't mess around, do stuff like this. You got to stop. But
well,
anyway,
and that's
I just found that those are kind of interesting.
Yeah,
things to
I mean,
watch.
there's kind of the difference. I mean, there's a point of kind of looking at someone and thinking, oh yeah, that's a drug dealer. Oh, he's got to be. I'm going to find a reason to stop him. That's kind of dumb in my book.
If they've got something hanging in their mirror.
I know Charlie over here has sold to this guy and this guy and this guy, and I found this guy dead, and this guy's dealing, and I know he's dealing because we know each other, and I busted him for dealing, and he's back at it. Guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to go after Charlie because I know he's doing it. It's not that he looks like a drug dealer. No, it's because
he's been busted
know he
before.
is, because I've got, those are the things that cops need to go after, the things that are definite. These are the things that you have investigated, looked at, understand, and know. It's the ones that you don't know. You need to take a different,
and we don't have anything in our system right now. I have, because I work at a federal force setting school, and these kids are like, man, they just want to deal drugs, and this is what they want to do. And they don't understand that to do that is the same entrepreneurial, avenue they could do with anything. You could sell cars like that if you wanted to and make money. And it's I haven't seen anything to stop that quick money.
Now, when you were working in the Minneapolis school district, Matt, what were the problems that you saw, with the kids at that time?
Well, what did you do for Minneapolis Public Schools?
Yeah, so I started as a substitute teacher.
Okay.
Then I was at Falwell Middle School, Southside. Then I took a position. I was a social studies teacher.
Okay.
And then I worked up on Broadway. It's called Broadway Alternative High School. It's a teen parent program.
Okay.
Okay.
So I worked mostly with mothers. Took them to Widgewagon, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Up North Shore, always bring camping.
Oh, good.
You know, so it was fun. I took all the groups. Yeah, every year I taught, I brought a group up to in the winter. You know, winter camping and stuff like that.
That's awesome. That is so awesome.
How long did you go up there?
So I was at Falwell from, I think I started as a sub there, like 95. It's kind of right after I stopped leading trips. And then I was there till 2000. And then I was in Broadway Alternative, which was in the north side off of Broadway Avenue. I was there for 2 years. Then was at Washburn for a year, high school. And then I jumped into online learning and tech about 2002, 2003. And then I did kind of all online learning, alternative schools, alternative learning, all using like blended
Because you're a STEM
learning
guy, pretty
technology. I was mostly social studies and like media arts.
Yeah.
I did a lot of that. It's kind of like the way I gravitated, I guess, towards tech. And then I just kind of really, for me, like as a teacher, and you're a teacher too. So like, resource in the early days of like analog paper and copy machines and that stuff. It was always the process of like just getting information was always so frustrating and things that would engage kids. And when the internet came out, I'm like, well, this thing's a miracle, right?
And now it's the bane of our existence.
So
now it's like it's social media.
I gotta do that. Yeah, it's not
social media. It's not the internet.
It's not the same internet anymore.
No, it's not.
We had like when I remember doing reports and homework at school. We had an encyclopedia set that was missing like the letter M and D.
Oh yeah.
If I had to do something on Miramar or a story about dogs.
Santa Claus is in there, so you know he's real.
Oh yeah,
it's true.
There you go. Yeah.
So
yeah, that's amazing. Like we used to have these hard binded books that were like take up half of your living room. Yeah.
Oh, and then my parents had to buy it, of course, right? Then you had the set in your house forever that nobody ever cracked.
I remember people knocking on the doors selling vacuums and encyclopedias.
Encyclopedia Britannica.
Really
right. Go
Britannica.
look this up in the Britannica.
Yes.
Yeah.
You have a Hoover. Your mom has a Hoover.
Let me ask you something, Matt.
Yeah.
So when you took these kids up north,
Yeah.
and whatever the reason why they went, did you see a change in them when they got back?
Yeah. Good question. We were only usually there for 3 days, couple of nights, 3 days. So if anything, I think it was like just sort of this break, from, well, I'll tell you what, the best way evidence I have of like change is like whenever I run into a student that I used to have around the city, they don't remember anything I taught, but they're like, you brought us to camp.
Yep.
Yeah, you're the person that they're going to remember.
They remember
always.
that.
Yeah.
Because I think it should be really a part of our disciplinary system is some of these kids that are, breaking rules. And, if you break one rule, it's a weekend camp. You got to go up with somebody up north.
I like
okay, if you keep on continuing to break, now you're going to do a month camp.
Yeah.
Okay, and you're going to fish. There's no phones.
They'll probably just keep breaking rules.
But I mean, I think part of our big problem is within our city is that one, there's too many options and too many obstacles to get through. Just to understand. I mean, life is very complex and it's too much for some people. I see that as like even for me when tax season comes around, I'm like, adulting and doing that responsible thing. And I think a lot of people struggle with that. Just having so many choices gives people problems. And when you bring them into a place where it's nature, it just changes you, I think.
Yeah, I mean, there's evidence of that, about how it changes the brain.
Yep.
And how being, that we've have these built environments that we've engineered, sometimes thoughtfully, sometimes not thoughtfully at all, or really are built upon these legacy, around a car or something like that, which is not going to be conducive to wilderness, right? Your brain changes. You lose something that was at the core of our evolution for a million, or
actual need.
A million years.
It was raining really hard once, and Brett went outside and hugged a tree.
There you go. Yeah.
It's true. That's true.
Yeah, I did.
I'm gonna go.
And
To
my daughter is actually going on her first camping trip on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It's a school thing. It's a 5th grade learning thing. So they do like
Nice.
some science stuff. So yeah, I'm excited to see her get out and do that because I've always wanted to take them camping, but they're not, they're 11 and 10. And I could just see him just being like,
That's the
not
perfect
quite
time to
mature
take
enough
them.
to
Yep.
like
That
it.
is the
Yep.
perfect time to take them.
Yeah, but they don't
But-
want to go camping with dad.
Hmm?
You know, that's
No, they do. They would.
They
I'd
do?
make it fun. I
But
mean,
when you're 10,
yeah,
you
we
know
would do-
everything.
Dude, if I told my youngest she could start a fire, she would be like, "Whoa, cool!" Like she would just love that. I was gonna say, Matt, you have some ties to Northern California, don't you?
I do.
You said you come out to San Fran a little bit.
I was
And
just there.
And just living in Sacramento,
Yeah.
I'll say when I go to San Francisco, the air is different, the vibe is different. It's just something that I feel when you guys were just talking about that. I was like, yeah, San Francisco does that for me.
Me too. I don't know I was just out there last week for a family event out there, and yeah, there's something about that place. Maybe it's because I was there a lot as a kid, but the smell, but the air,
Mhm.
it's something that just I need it. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I go to a Cal Bears football game usually every year. I've stopped doing that tradition, and I got to get back on that horse. But I just love parking, and then I'll park like a mile away at a cheap garage, and then I'll walk all the way up the hill to the and just take in the University of Cal Berkeley vibe. It is so like it's cool. It's there's a magnetism about it that I find fascinating.
Yeah.
Alcatraz.
And Alcatraz, I've
Honestly.
toured that thing twice, and I would go back again if I could tomorrow.
Yeah. I played in the park across from it. I've never been
Oh,
there,
nice. Oh,
The
yeah,
Alcatraz.
though. It's supposed to be haunted.
That's what they say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
yeah, they
Park-
have tours
park-
at night if you're brave enough.
Ooh.
But I went in the
Right.
daytime
Ooh.
twice.
Oh,
But I was there at
I would
night.
do a tour there at night. Absolutely. That would
great.
be so great. I like to be creeped out. It's kind of fun.
Mhm.
I do it like towards Halloween.
real haunted houses in prisons,
Yeah.
And I know
But-
our president just said we need to reopen it for the hardened criminals.
Yeah.
but
I heard that.
he doesn't understand that place is literally crumbling. Like you
Yeah.
cannot. You have to raise that. Plus, it is Native American land.
Thank
so
you. Yeah.
there's
I didn't
a
know
lot
that.
of
I did not know
controversy
that.
about
Yeah.
that. No, it's a protected
Yeah.
island
Wow.
that we kind of took over. But there was riots and protests about that a long time ago. Matt, I think you're nodding your head like, yeah, I know all about it.
Yeah. Thanks for mentioning that.
But yeah, I don't know.
And they closed it
you know
because
the
it's
whole
just
story.
too goddamn expensive to run.
Yeah.
Putting everything on a
Right.
boat.
Oh my!
put it out
Well,
there, like,
think about
hey,
the
if you want to
billions.
save some
Saltwater
money,
just
and
eroding
taxpayers
everything.
some money,
Well,
But,
think about. You
yeah,
have to think about
indigenous,
the
I think perspective is
right. Well, think about even if you look at it from a fiscal standpoint, the billions that would have to go into getting it up and running, and then bringing it out. I mean, it would. I mean, and you wouldn't be able to do. I mean, that it would be 10 years out before you even got it open. And then the amount of money that you would have to spend for that, and then I mean, it would just be.
It would
You're
be cheaper
better-
just to send them to
right.
Guatemala.
Well, it'd be almost be cheaper if you build a brand new prison somewhere else. It'd still be cheaper. So why do that?
Yeah, no.
You know.
But yeah, I think I got the point of what he was trying to say. But
Yeah.
at the same, he says a lot of things that aren't practical
No.
in nature. So moving on. So Matt, you have family in San Francisco? Is that correct?
Yeah, I do. Well, actually, I don't have family in San Francisco proper anymore. Like Alameda, though, and Oakland area. And then I've got a brother's in San Anselmo in Marin.
Is that Jim?
That's Jim.
Yep.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
Now,
Marin's a beautiful place.
now you were born in California, correct?
I was born in Los Gatos, which is kind of like
Spell it.
San Jose. The cat.
Oh, San Jose. I've been there. The
Yeah.
Mystery House.
I don't know anything about
You
what's
know
the mystery house.
the gun that won the West.
Oh, the
The
Winchester,
Winchester?
House.
Oh.
Yeah.
I've been there.
Okay.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
trippy, man.
The mystery spot is in Monterey area. But yeah, you said mystery house. I was like,
Yeah.
mystery spot?
Yeah.
No.
The
She had a thing for the number 13, Winchester.
Yep.
Los Gatos, where's that?
Gatos.
It's basically Silicon Valley now.
Okay.
Oh,
So yeah,
Now, so why did you? Out of all the places, Minnesota? I mean,
Yeah.
Was that your family thing?
How?
Yeah. So I was only there for a hot minute. And then my dad worked in the nascent computer industry. So he and another buddy came out and worked for this company called Control Data.
Oh yeah.
You know, the kind of when Minneapolis became kind of like the second little mini Silicon Valley there.
Right.
It was kind of in that whole startup stuff that was happening. So
I remember
opportunity.
I remember growing up, you had the coolest freaking house on the block. I mean, seriously, it was like huge backyard that went right to the woods, and it was kind of wooded, and over the house had a balcony, and I mean, it was like the cool place to go.
Wait, your
swamp.
dad worked for Controlled Data?
Yeah.
That's like from the 60s,
Mm-hmm.
IBM and all
Yeah.
that stuff. Yeah, okay, cool.
Like Cray, they had that little thing happening there. Yeah,
And then you came to Snow.
And then,
with a Volkswagen.
Yeah.
Like, we had a Volkswagen.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
In
We had a
California.
We had
Like,
we had a
remember
Volkswagen
just
too.
freezing my ass off, like, getting dragged to church.
So what do you think of the changing of the seasons? Because you're an outdoors guy, so do you like the changing of the seasons? Because California, there's no changing.
Yeah,
of
I do.
seasons.
I love it. I love a good thunderstorm too.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of things Minnesota has.
A good boomer banger.
I mean,
Boomer banger.
the fall and
Yeah,
the fall and
that's-
spring, you know,
that's the
they're hard to
one thing.
beat.
Yeah.
I'm in California. I love sunshine, and I'm in one of the sunniest places in the world in Sacramento. But I miss a good thunderstorm. And God,
Oh yeah, we had
so
some
I
good
actually,
ones.
I find myself on YouTube. There's actually storm chasers that are YouTubers now.
Yeah.
And you can go with like the Reed Timmer, but there's also just some guy named Sean driving around with this. So I like when I'm at work, because I work from home 3 days a week, but I'll just have YouTube on in the background, and it's just them chasing storms, and I love it. But that's the one thing I really miss about Minnesota.
In a
Other
big
than that, it can go-
snowstorm.
I used to love snowstorms when I was younger. But
Yeah, they're great.
you know what?
see,
When I live out here, I don't have to fill up my washer fluid. The bottom of my pants aren't full of salt. My shoes
well,
aren't soaked. You know what I mean? It's just like those little things. I put on flip flops in March.
The snot in your
it's-
nose
yeah,
isn't frozen. Come on, dude.
it's funny because
There's a lot here to freeze. I'll tell you.
Oh, come on. I mean, 30 below, it's like, you walk outside in shorts. I mean, I remember when I was working, there was a guy that would always be outside. We called him Shorts Boy because it could be 30 below. He's waiting for the train, and he's outside in his shorts and a short sleeve shirt, freezing his butt off. And it's like, we called him Shorts Boy. It's like, why? He just didn't like wear pants. So when we saw him wearing pants, it's like, what is going on? Did you have to go to a funeral or something? And he's like, no, the boss is in today. So he'd wear pants.
No, I'm
But,
kind of
I
the
mean-
same way. And Californians are like, what's what's the threshold? Because I'll wear shorts up until about, like, if it's 39 or less, I won't wear shorts. But if it's 40, I'll wear shorts.
Wait, 40 where here?
I just hate pants. No, here, like
You're
It
just
gets to
trying to
40
show off
there?
your legs.
Wait, it gets 40
in the
degrees.
winter,
and-
it's in the winter it'll be a low of 30, and a high of 55.
so when
so
it's
it does
30,
get
do
chilly.
people like wear parkas out there?
Yes. No, even
Yeah?
when it's
I mean,
70,
I'm asking
they
seriously.
don't transition. I just saw a guy wearing a parka last week. I'm like, dude,
What?
it's 72 degrees today. He's still like thinking it's January here, and it's like,
Wow.
oh my god. But yeah, there's a lot of softies out here. I'll tell you.
And did you grow up in Minnesota, or did you move to
Yeah.
California? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you,
yeah, you
yeah.
betcha. I'm from St. Louis Park originally. but-
Okay.
So,
So
now,
Matt knows.
Matt, if you
Yeah, go
don't
ahead.
know,
Yeah.
I was going to say, if you don't know, Patrick was a DJ on 93X
Oh.
for a number of years.
Oh, cool.
Before he went out to Sacramento, and he was a DJ for the station out there as well. But
I was an assistant program director.
ooh,
Ooh.
he had a title.
Ooh.
I had a title.
It's a
That's what we
title.
do. We get older. We get better.
But I mean, so it was kind of funny because I met Patrick when I was bartending at the TGI Fridays in downtown Minneapolis, and
Yeah.
I met Stacy quite a few years before that at the Mermaid.
The bowling alley.
Because they had
Yeah.
rock night. They had
No, streamers downstairs.
downstairs streamers. Yeah, they
Oh.
had rock night, so they had like
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, Matt,
that's an
you can
image
take- you
that's
can take
burned into
the
my head.
boy out of Minnesota, but you
Irondale,
can't take
Mounds
the
View.
Yep.
boy.
Yeah.
I'm also a diehard Viking fan. I used to have
Yeah.
a purple mohawk,
Yep.
and
Skull.
was
Yeah.
quite well known for that as well. So,
The
but
spiking
yeah,
Viking.
I'm spiking Viking because I had spiked mohawk, and now
You
that's
had a
little-
lot of glitter in your bathroom. I remember that.
Yeah.
yes.
I mean, I
throw glitter on
remember when so when Patrick was working at 93X, he got tickets. Am I correct? You got tickets to the Vikings game.
Yeah,
So-
we had a second row, like 7 or 8 tickets. I think it was an 8-pack of tickets that we would give away on the air in the second row in the corner of the end zone. So I would host the tailgate party before the games, and as payment, I would get a pair of tickets.
That was awesome.
It was. So Patrick would like, hey, why don't you and Gene come and hang out and go to the game? And so and we'd go to the pre-party, and we're out in the parking lot freezing it. And I remember that they brought out an ice sculpture, and you would pour the schnapps, peppermint schnapps,
Oh, yeah,
sculpture.
and it
yeah.
would come out the mouth. And
It wasn't me. It was somebody else. But yeah,
But
I knew
it-
the guy. I was like, we got to go over here and do this ice
It-
sculpture
Yeah.
thing.
You see the ice sculpture and you're like,
You do the.
gotta go.
It
Yeah,
looked
and
pretty
you would pour
phallic.
Jaeger, and it would go through an ice block, and you'd be like, "Ah, blah, 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 blah."
Then some guy
Wait,
brought.
how did that go? Wait.
Yeah, blah, blah, blah.
Then some guy. I remember some guy came out with a ski, and on the ski was a bunch
Oh,
of
the
shots.
Shot ski.
So
Shot
the
ski.
shot ski, yeah, and everybody had to, 4 people, 5 people lined up, and then they would tilt it,
Yep.
and you'd.
You tilt
It was
back
like
at the same time. And
By the time the game started, I was done. I mean, I was like ready to go. Before-
I took a girlfriend once, and she was one of the smallest girls I ever dated, probably 5 foot, 90 pounds. And she passed out in the middle of the first quarter, and she just slept the whole game. And then I took her home. Well, I didn't take her home. I went to the 1029 bar after, because that's what we do. And so I just let her sleep in the pickup truck, and I came out.
You left her
and
in the truck.
Left her in the
Yeah, I went in the bar, and she just slept in my truck. But I came out, and she had pissed herself, and she was like, "Where the hell am I? What happened?" And I'm like, "Oh my god!" So this.
Well, at least she didn't shit
We got
herself.
there at like 8 a.m. and this is like 3 p.m. She finally comes to, and she's like, "What the fuck?" And she's pissed herself, and I felt bad. I was like, "Holy shit!" But she pissed on my chair, my truck
Favorite
seat.
chair.
Your
Hey,
favorite
you
chair.
should have put a puppy pad down first.
So back in the 80s, were you legal? Were you legal for the changeover of 19 to?
I
We
did.
were-
Did you?
I made
we were-
it. Yeah,
we were 19,
grandfathered
yeah.
in. Yeah,
When's your birthday month?
Ooh,
February
Okay,
17th.
February
Yep.
17th. Okay.
He's an Aquarius.
So,
I am.
oh, so you just turned? Did you just turn 58?
Yeah.
Then okay.
Yeah, we're all. What's funny for all of you out there,
I'm
the
the youngin'.
ironic thing is we're all from the Mounds View area here. The 3 of us.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody knows
Irondale,
where that is.
Mounds View High School. So and we all graduated in '85.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's kind of
So we had that.
I-
We had the era of we were able to drink at 19 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it changed over, and I had friends that were born in September, and they're like, because September 1st was the cutoff date. I was born in May. My birthday's in a month, and there's my girlfriend was like, oh, her birthday was September 7th.
Yeah.
And it was September 1st that was the change. So another 2 years.
Well, I
gotta
was
wait.
I was drinking at 18 because I had a fake ID, and the guy looked exactly like me because I had this long hair. He had long hair, and I still remember the name. It was Marvin Harrell Lewis III. And he was from Edina.
Try
But
saying
that was
that
his
to a
name,
cop real fast.
Marvin Harrell Lewis
Are
III.
you sure it wasn't Oliver Closeoff?
But I mean, they would look at it and start laughing and look at me and I'm like, "What are you laughing at?" He goes, "That's some name you got there, Marv."
I was legal at 18.
But I mean, his middle name literally was Harrell,
Harold.
not Harold.
Harrell.
Hairl. Harrell.
Oh, no D?
No, Harrell.
or not HAROL.
No, it was Harrell, like hair with an L. It's like, oh my God. But I used that
Harold.
ID for a few months.
Wow.
And then when I turned 19, it was,
You used his ID?
I used this fake ID. I bought the fake
he
ID
look like you?
from a buddy. Yeah, he looked identical to me. It was almost like a doppelganger. I mean, but the name, I almost didn't buy it. The idea, I'm like, I can't use this. I go, this is fake. I mean, it's fake. At least come up with a better name. And they're like, going, dude, that's his actual name. You know? I'm like, oh my God.
It's also the kind of day though where like, as long as you had something, you were probably getting in the bar.
Well, I mean, back then nobody really cared.
Yeah,
you know, I was legal.
up.
I was legal at 18 because
Yeah.
I was stationed in Germany, but I had a
Right.
military ID card. You know, right out of high school. And,
Well, out of high school, when we were out of high school, we were legal at 18. We just had to go to Wisconsin.
but even in high school, so a couple times I was at after the merm. No, I wasn't with the merm. I wasn't even going to the mermaid yet because I was too young. We got busted by Mounds View cops at the Burger King parking. Was at Super America actually, and I had a big gulp from 7-Eleven full of alcohol. And a cop rolls up. We're sitting outside. I'm sitting outside of my car, and he's like, so I give it to him. He opens it up, looks at me,
Oh, and you're like, oh,
You're
fuck.
like, no.
gives me back,
Oh.
go home. And that's
What
the way they were back then.
Yeah.
Well, according to my
So-
dad's liquor cabinet, I was legal age at 16.
Yeah, we could get a bottle of Jack Daniels, my buddy John, Mark, and myself, and sometimes Ron and Ian and Tony, whatever. But like this was in the 80s where Burger King was the only place that let you go and get your own drink. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like before
Right.
that, they would do it behind the counter and hand you your Coke. Burger King was the first, like, here's your cup, go get it yourself, you fucking fat bastard. So, but we used to sneak we'd have the Jack Daniels and we would just go spike fucking Cokes and Dr. Peppers and we would sit in Burger King for like 2.5 hours getting shitty as a 16-year-old. It was so fun. I'll never forget that.
Now, when I was 16, I got shit-faced with some buddies, and I came home, and my parents were having guests over.
Oh, perfect.
And the guest was, his name was Marlon Bree. You know, sure nobody remembers it, but he wrote...
His middle name was Errol.
Harold. But Marlon Bree was a writer, and he wrote the book Across the Atlantic, the Michael Spieth story, where he crossed the Atlantic in a 10-foot little dinghy, basically. So Marlon was kind of a big fucking deal, you know.
Playing with your dinghy.
And I come walking in, and I stumble in the house, and I fall down, like, boom. And I get up, and I'm like, yeah. And my parents are looking at me, and the guests are looking at me, and they knew right away. And I'm like, and my room was in the basement, so I go downstairs and I fall down the stairs, and my
Well,
dad.
You must have made an impression.
Oh, I made an
Ram.
impression. So, and that was on a Friday, and I remember Saturday, 8:00 in the morning, when I'm hungover, ready to barf. My dad was like, "Time to get up, start mowing the lawn."
Got some chores for you.
I got
yeah.
chores for the
Yeah.
whole day. Oh my! I must have puked like 4 times, mowing the lawn, chopping the wood. Just
Chopping
Yeah.
wood.
yeah, I had me chopping wood. It was horrible. I never did it again. It was like, nope. You know, hey, have a beer. No. I'm good. I'm good. Nope.
So let me ask you this, okay? So let's get back onto this the teaching thing, and I'm having a hard time right now because just the way everything's going, we really, really need to change our education system, right? And what do you think of that? Have you heard of the Wonder School? Have you heard of that?
I haven't. Yeah.
Okay, it's a new thing that they're trying to. So it's going to be more of like a. I don't know if it's going to be a
So,
charter
Stacy,
school.
let's-
Yeah, go ahead.
Can we unpack that a little bit and
Okay.
set it up? Like what is wrong with what we're doing?
Well,
Is it just because we're just giving
yeah.
kids tests to take and they just learn how
Yeah,
to
you
take
know, I
tests?
mean, we're
They're not
learning that
learning,
everybody
per
is
se?
different, and we learn differently, and we're I'm in the because I'm a special ed teacher. I think everybody should just have an individual education plan.
Right.
You know, and
Yeah.
and you know
Yeah.
you go towards your interest and what you're good at,
Right.
and you know, obviously the basics of math and reading and writing should be there, but it's got to be different. The way the whole modality of the classroom should be, I think.
And that's true too, because when I was in junior high, I didn't get algebra, but I was good at geometry and
Yep.
basic math.
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
and so I was failing at pre-algebra in 7th grade, and my mom and I actually had to go in and petition and to the principal to say, like, I don't get it. I have a blind spot for it.
Mhm.
I can't. I put in the work. I'm looking at. It's like looking at a foreign language to me. I have no idea what's going on. They put me in a accelerated. They said you're in 7th grade, but we'll try you in an 8th grade geometry class if that's what you think you can do better. I was like, yeah. So I did, and I thrived. So
Yep.
Was
and
that
it was
room padded?
I was reminded that my brain doesn't work like normal people because on Thursday this week for work, I took a data. It was a Power BI data class, and I was completely just like, what? Because they're talking about formulas and copy pasting this and this, and then here's the map tree, and you do this. And I was just like, by noon, 3 hours in, I was just like, I don't get this.
See, we'll back
done.
up to
I'm
that
fucking
the
done.
normal thing, and it's not. It's what we're finding is that there's so many differences in learning, and there's so many differences in people, and but there are going to be similarities, in a psychological sense, right? You know that there's extroverts, right, high trait extroverts, and then there's very low trait extroverts, and everybody in between, right? So if you're really really low trait extroversion, and you're not really fan about being around people, that's okay, right? We're not going to put you up in front of class and make you do a speech type thing.
Right.
Or if your brain is really left brain logical or your right brain artistic or creative, then we need to tease those things out and put you in a place that you can thrive and be successful. Yeah. And then if you want stuff later, then go for it. I mean, there's so many different ways to educate nowadays. And I'm
sorry, Stacy, I'm sorry I interrupted, but you were asking Matt. And what were you asking?
As the wilderness, because I think this is a big problem. There's a book called The Last Children of the Woods, and you aware of that?
Familiar with it?
Okay, so and I just think that we need to really, really get back to basics in just living as being humans, and the city, I think, scape is there, very difficult to navigate, but that's leaving kids or people out of what's actually happening in a lot of the United States or the world. You know what I'm saying? It's the basic understanding of just what things can you eat out there, what can you grow, what can you hunt, what can you do to survive and be sustainable on your own, as opposed to relying on.
Yeah, I mean, now I know they took out like shop and home ec. When we were in school, we had kids, that absolutely excelled in those areas.
I was the only female in my shop class.
But I mean, I
had to take home ec as a boy too, so it was like
right. I mean,
I totally remember the shark pillow that I sold.
Right,
in 7th grade, and
I think
my mom
I
still
did
reminds me
the
of that.
same thing.
I did the
Jaws
same thing.
was big.
I made a
then.
guitar pillow. I did.
But I mean, God, it's such a talk about multifaceted things, but I really agree with that. This personalized kind of learning, everybody having an IEP, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And even though there are differences, there are still a lot of similarities too.
Mm-hmm.
And like, if you think about because challenge is good. Intellectual rigor and challenge is good. And you have to work and you have to learn, like you think about this going on this portage,
right? You
have to learn to persist, to excel in anything you do. And that's a learned behavior.
Yes.
But motivation to do that there are ways that can do that socially.
Mm-hmm.
Social is great when you're in a group, when you're doing things to group together, and you've got people to share that challenge with and to co-construct these experiences with, like if it's term learning, solving a puzzle or problem, or engineering, testing, STEM, or something like this, or we're going to go out and do something. That's a motivator. So you can get people, especially, kids, adults. Okay. We know it sometimes. Okay. We got to learn this thing because, it's going to help. Adults are different.
Mm-hmm.
Our brains are different. Our motivations are totally different than motivations.
Our genre is different
at elementary, middle, and the motivations change. So you really need to have a lot of different strategies, and to have, this supportive, schools and, let's just call them environments, right? Learning environments.
Yep.
And so, I hate to kind of like say like, okay, one thing, there's too much of this or too much of that, or sometimes it's about a match fitting, but also like, yeah, I think structurally we've inherited a lot of legacy kind of,
Bad
think about how
habits.
schools started. I mean, they started basically so
Factories.
adults could go to work in the factory, and and we've been tinkering at the edges of these things, and then we have alternative schools that take on these totally different flavors and do for different things. But to your point about shops, we know like boys were been failed horribly.
Boys like to
we taught
things.
this, and that's not like, I'm not saying that as like that girls don't either, or any gender, whatever, however you identify gender is one way or the other. But this hands-on learning, but it's particular impact on boys too for that. So I think like all these things, to do stuff like shop class, those things, and those were taken out of some school systems a lot, like in Minneapolis a certain time, and now a lot of that we're seeing that like the trades, those kinds of hands-on opportunities.
Looks like they're coming back.
It's lifelong learning.
Right.
People I think recognize that there needs to be more like.
Yeah, I remember
I
in
don't know what
ninth
you want to
grade,
call that, but
we had I don't know, I
vocational
think it was
tech.
part of our math class, but we had a special guest come in and show us how to do a checking account, like how you did. Remember back in the day, you would write a check and you'd have to write it down how much you had, and and we don't even teach that anymore. And there's a grander conspiracy, like, oh, they don't want us to know about economics, but I'm like, I think the reason that there's a lot of stupidity in Washington and in the nation in general is people don't know how money works. And we don't teach that in school, and it bothers the shit of me. Bothers the shit out of me.
It's I would back that up though with, it's not about money, it's about numbers.
Well, it's about accounting,
economics.
It's
I'm just saying
economics,
it's
because you got to take a look at
holistic thing that
Left
people
brain
think that
logical.
it's free because it comes from the government. It's not free. It comes from somewhere. It comes from something. And profit isn't bad necessarily, because you profit just as much as the company profits. You know what I'm saying? So an iPhone makes your life better, and you think that's worth $1,100, so you buy it, and that you profit now by having this computer, camera, TV, studio, whatever you want in your hand. You profit from that.
right.
But everyone goes, oh, Apple's rich and screw them and it's profits. It's like, come on. I hate that kind of stupidity in our country, and I wish they taught some sort of economics in our curriculum. But they don't.
That's one thing that would really help kids is to learn economics for sure. But but what they're doing is they're going, well, they can learn it in college. We're going to teach them the more basic things now.
Like a 19-year-old kid's going to say, I want to take economics.
and that's it. I mean, like, I remember when I was in school, I mean, they home ec and shop, and in part of home ec, they taught you how to balance a checkbook. In math, we had to do
and
that.
sew,
I remember,
and bake,
right, and a bunch of that,
and like
bunch of that stuff. But now things are a little bit different. Now, I mean, for me as a police officer, I've noticed that kids are so angry today. I mean, angry like I've never seen. I mean, they don't like authority. They don't deal with authority. They have meltdowns and they're told what to do. I've seen kids tell their parents to their face just the most horrible things, and I'm like, and the parents just sit there and take it, and I'm like, what is going on here? Why don't be disrespectful to your parents? And their parents are, no, it's okay. I'm like, no, it's not okay. Okay, if they're disrespectful to me, I get it, because I've got a gun and a badge, and and I'm not.
So what do we
considered.
Do what do we do when? Sorry, I didn't want to cut you off, but
no worries.
I'm just trying to tie it back to education. Like, are we just not challenging our children in the right way early on, so that way they just become like the caged animal that wants to rage because we're not tapping into what they need?
So what do you? I mean, what have you experienced in this? Because I mean, I've always said the teachers are the people.
Let him go.
I'm telling you, teachers, they put up with the biggest amount of insane amounts of aggression from kids nowadays that are angry,
and parents.
I mean, I deal with for a little bit. If I don't want to deal with it anymore, I take them to the supervision center, juvenile supervision center, and mom and dad can deal with it. But you have to deal, or you had to deal with it for, from 7 a.m. till 3 p.m. So how did you deal with that stuff? I mean, was it prevalent?
Not really all that well. Yeah, sure. It was really prevalent. A lot of need, high poverty schools,
Right.
a lot of trauma. These kids
Right.
are bringing in trauma. What's going on? At least, oftentimes, you kind of brought up the subject of how in your police work, you have a handle on a situation before you act. And I think as a teacher, you have to do that too. You really got to understand the kids and know the kids and understand their families and their family lives, because something could be happening out there and that shows up in the classroom. And so there's just it's really multifaceted and it's hard. And that's why, social workers are so important in schools, and in the whole support systems around nurses, and just people who are EAs who get to know the really good at relationship building and kind of, it's just a whole team effort.
So, and that's what I find fascinating, because before it was the teacher was the rule of the roost. It was like in that classroom, it was just the teacher.
See all the other people around.
Right. But now it's everyone is involved and the communication is key.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah. And, I've been out of it for a little while, so maybe I'd love to hear what Stacy has to say about this too.
Stacy deals with more of
I'm in level 4 federal.
Yeah. So I've been a special ed teacher for almost 18 years, but I've been in education for 20, and started out at Capitol View, which is a federal force setting school. And now I'm at District 287, which is a federal force setting school.
Yep.
And the reason why I went to EBD, my license is EBD.
Now to back it up, can you explain what
federal
that
the
means?
setting force? Okay, the settings. Okay, so if you are in a school and you need some services for whatever reason, so you can get an educational diagnosis, which is going to be EBD, ASD, which is an educational and a medical diagnosis, SLD, which is specific learning disability, or DCD, which is developmental cognitive disability. So depending on the child, right? So if a child is really falling behind in math per se, and there's they just don't get it, and their grade levels behind for whatever reason. So we look at we kind of can look at the reason. No family structure at home. They're not studying. They're not doing what they could do it, but they don't. They're not putting in the time to do it, so they're falling behind. So we'll assess them, with parent permission, and get them into, and if they qualify, there's got to be qualifying indicators with an evaluation, and they can get services. So if a kid has services that are less than 20% of their general education class, they're in federal setting 1. 20 to 60 is federal setting 2, 26% that I'm pulling out. So I could pull out some kids I need to pull out for math, reading, writing, social skills. Those are the main ones. And that's 20 to 60% federal setting 2, 60% or more, depending, in a general education setting is federal setting 3. And then if they can't handle the school framework or being in a general education school, and we pull them out and put them in all special education schools. So that's what I'm working at right now. And the sad thing is that there's so many things that affect children that we see, and mind you, I seeing this for such a long time. And I had to go outside of my education and emotional behavior disabilities and find out, behaviorally, why do humans do the things that they do? And so we know, I think, through my outside research, not through my educational research, that personality testing. So you remember the Myers-Briggs and the MMPI and stuff like that. Well, they've furthered that to the big 5 personality indicators. And it's about 80 to 90% accurate cross-culturally. So you can go to another country and see an extrovert, go point them out, right? So, but if you're some of the other traits that in combination, so say you're born low trait agreeableness, and everybody knows these people, and they have somebody in their life that's just disagreeable. They just have to fight about everything. And
Debbie Downer.
and they're the ones that walk around and they're not. They don't seem to be happy all the time.
It seems like they're the happiest when they're the saddest.
Yes,
when the more they complain, the happier they are.
It gives them something, right?
It's like 17 of my ex-girlfriends. Right
we know that people that are the positive personality trait of extroversion, people have an easier time at life if they're higher in extroversion, because they can deal with people a lot easier. We just deal with people easier. But if you're really low in trait extroversion and you have a difficult time socializing, that gives you problems in interviews. That gives you problems in social acceptance, in navigating personalities of others. There's all sorts of stuff there.
Well, and that goes the same, like and it's ironic again. We're all Mounds View kind of folks, but we all have a master's degree in a different part of education.
Yeah.
Mine is in.
I am your master.
I have a master's in criminal behavior. In the track is psychology. Yours is a psychological track as well. But for things like that, I have it's worked for me, because then the people that I talk to, the criminal behavior, and it's kind of a misnomer. It's not the behavior is criminal. It's how are we addressing certain types of criminal behavior in an area? What's most prevalent? How come it's different over here? Because over here, it's a lot of robberies. Is it because there's a lot of victimhood going on? People that are just, incapable of common sense? And over here, it's more domestic oriented. So we put together these heat maps. These heat maps show exactly what's going on in different areas. So then you can take a look at those areas and say, what kind of procedures and policies can we put in place, or actions we can take to lower those incidents? So that's kind of how I look at it. So from a police officer standpoint, when we're looking at certain areas that are higher in numbers, I would look at all the reports and I would say, okay, there's a lot of stuff going on in this area. In roll call, all right, you guys, I need you guys to saturate this area, do a lot of more proactive stuff, stop people for, if they're smoking drugs, stop them, run them, get them out of there. Because, you have granny that needs to take the bus in a certain area, or needs to take the train, or is on her way to the grocery store, who's scared out of her mind because a lot of this stuff is going on. So we would attack those areas. And having that knowledge with that education really did work. So what you're saying is like, how people act, piggybacks off of what I look at in terms of how they act and what they do from how they act, which goes on to someone like you, Matt, that where you're like at the bottom trying to get people to act differently so that we don't have to deal with them in those areas.
Well, he's at the top now because he's on our podcast.
Right.
Well, the sad thing is behavior is very, very difficult to change when it comes to those traits that we're born with. If you are born with high trait neuroticism, and you worry all the time, it's very difficult to get you to alleviate that.
Right.
CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, has deemed been working very well with some people that are suicidal.
Right.
But what we have to do is give those people that are those traits outlets that are positive and successful and can be used as an advantage to them as opposed to a disadvantage to society. Is what I'm thinking. And this whole thing with the poverty thing, and which I have a hard time with, is that we've seen in numerous stories and studies that you could have no dad, you could have a mom that a crack mom or on drugs, and then have 5 different kids, and one child is dead by the time they're 18, one is in jail by the time they're 20, one's a cop, one's a lawyer. So how does that happen within a family that's getting the same, that has the same background, the same social situation, but why is it that that one will, like, if they see a brother getting murdered or somebody getting murdered, one might want revenge where the other one wants to do something to change that. They might become a cop or something. And this has happened. I mean, I have friends, black friends that are cops. So that's
Right.
I grew up with this. And so,
yeah, without getting into specifics, in my family, I feel like I have broken one of those cycles. So I'm just saying,
breaking
I'm not saying
cycles
I'm better than anybody, or I just did something different, and I don't know why. I've thought about that too. Like, why is it that I did that?
Yeah.
Why did I not
and
buy into
success is a hard thing. I mean, adulting is a hard thing, and navigating life is a hard thing, and I just don't think that we're doing justice in preparing our kids for those.
Well,
right?
and it goes back to like when you were dealing with kids in high school with the anger level, that all that in trauma that they're bringing in from, a lot of times no dad, or dad's in the picture, but he's not in the picture. You have, you're getting the kids are getting threatened every day in some form or another. They're afraid of the police. They're, afraid of the gangs or the kids out there. I mean, there's so much stuff going on. How do you get through to them? Because again, for me, I can talk to them. I see them occasionally, and I talk to them and see how they're doing. And I try to be the cool cop that they can come up and talk to at
I was
any
just going to say,
time.
you're probably the cool cop, and there was one that we had in St. Louis Park too. So.
But the thing is, I have to wait for them to come up and approach me with a problem or just something to talk about. Where Matt, you get to see
have
them.
A relationship.
Yeah,
you have to have a relationship.
But also, is funny thing though is that
and that's
like.
Those are the interventions.
Yeah,
that's the,
the interventions and the relationships would have in positive. And I had, but I had a kid the other day that was raging, and he was really, really mad and angry and yelling down the hallway. And I had him laughing within 5 minutes. And when I was a bouncer, I would be able to do the same thing. And number one.
Well, I saw you diffuse a situation a couple of weeks ago. I mean, you're good at it, man. Like,
but the difference is, though, not only do you know how to talk to people, but if they get out of hand, you could beat them up too. So, but for those of you who don't know, Stacy is very much. He's an instructor at the Minnesota Collie Group, and has been doing kind of that. What is it, Filipino style? For
he's going to be on UFC
35 years. So
it's 6 months. He's training right now.
Which club do you?
Minnesota Collie Group.
Yeah, is it the one down on Chicago there? Or?
Yeah, that's the main school. That's Rick Faye's. Yeah, that's where I started. I started with Rick when he was on Washington way back in the day, back in '88 when I started with him, and we've moved that school around, and finally it's on Chicago. But as we grew, I opened up a Minnesota Collie Group and had it in White Bear Lake for a while. And that's a different story. But my friend Peter. He was my training partner for many years. He opened up the one in Mounds View right on Highway 10 there. Okay. So
Matt,
I teach
Matt,
there.
are you into MMA? I know that your bio said you do yoga and stuff.
Tai Chi Chuan.
Like,
yep. Wu style. Tai Chi Chuan.
Oh, I don't know what that means.
It's
it's not swore at me in Japanese.
Come on,
it's it's kind of cool. Well, actually, the reason I asked is a guy I train with. He goes to the Collie Group, and he's a Tai Chi guy too, but he trains in other arts and because just do cross train.
We do. I mean, we do Tai Chi drills. I mean, all the time.
What's
Tai
Chi? Is it like with the
Chinese
wooden poles?
No.
Like,
Chinese is like very slowed down. People would call it katas or forms, that they're bringing energy in and they're taking the energy and releasing the energy. It's like a martial arts version of yoga.
Well, there's a lot of misconceptions on that. There's a lot of misconceptions on that, because when you see somebody that's doing Tai Chi and there's
you've seen
the slow stuff.
Yeah, you've seen a part of this.
Yeah, if you go to there's a couple of Chinese women on TikTok that have these, and you watch them. Holy crap! Okay, it can be very ballistic, and it can be very. one of the things is the problems with martial arts is how Americans have Americanized it.
Yeah.
And I think many people agree with that. And they've changed
But
it.
some of us just want to learn like
But-
just basic self-defense, and it's in.
Well,
and there's disciplines. I get it.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
like,
Well,
like,
that's
so
a-
I would be the guy that is probably
So-
ruining it right
Yeah.
now.
Here's-
Me too.
I'm 100%.
Go ahead.
Here's what I
And,
say.
and I got to give props to Brett. So this is like 20 years ago. I think we were after Fridays. We went back to my apartment to have some beers or something, and I was like, "Show me something that I could use on the street." And he's like, "Okay,
Oh,
I'm gonna
God.
try to come at you with a right hook. What are you gonna do?" And I went, "I'm gonna go like this."
Yeah.
And then he's gonna go, "Guess what? You're exposed over here, and I'm just gonna punch you with my left hand." So what he taught me to do is, if someone comes at you with a right hook, like this, you push them away, and then all of a sudden, oh, hi, I'm vulnerable, and then you just smash them.
So it's about redirection. I mean, and that's kind of, is that kind of what you do? Is
Yeah.
like the redirection stuff?
Yeah.
So it's like,
yeah, and it's like that is, I haven't had to use it yet, but it's good knowledge. Like I just have to duck back and go counterintuitively, swim away, and
so-
then you're exposed, and I just
Swim
crush you.
away.
see, now what I do is
Grasshopper.
yeah, grasshopper.
Well,
Now,
no, it's like
I'm
football.
a-
There's a
Grass
swim
sparrow's
move in
tail.
football, and
One of our
there's
one of
a-
our
yeah.
postures.
Now it's different because Kali doesn't have belts. Now, like me, I'm in Subak Do, which is part of the Mudokwan.
Yeah.
Subak Do comes from Tung Sudo, if you remember that. Chuck Norris's Tung Sudo.
Chucky.
So Subak Do, it's akin to Taekwondo, that kind of deal, but it's more military, more organized, very classical, bowing, that kind of stuff. But
That's why you got smacked on the back of your head a lot.
Yeah.
I remember you telling me that.
and I'm a second dan.
He could
and,
dodge a punch. What do you?
But the thing is, I did a lot of sparring, lots of sparring. I was sparring 2-3 times a week. I got really good
With
at
Gene? With
no,
Gene?
no, in an actual classroom setting with
That's
other.
fighting.
Yeah, then you have black eyes. You have black eyes. if you did
No,
that.
I don't need martial arts. I just go for the balls.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally
Well,
legit.
that's what
As
you
you
do.
should.
That's it.
Yeah.
Oh, he's like, yeah.
It's
that's
called
what you do.
monkey grabs.
Yeah.
But and
Okay, that.
the thing is, if I ever, I mean, like someone like Stacy's an inside fighter, he's comfortable on the inside, so my fighting skills were to try to see
Does that mean
what
close up to somebody?
very close up. If,
On the
if-
inside, it's like you-
Well, we
yeah,
do
if-
we do
Because
multiple
if
ranges.
you're
right?
close to somebody,
Yeah.
you can't leverage
Yeah.
power,
So
right?
the
Is that-
the outside ranges that we do for empty hand is our kicking systems. We use French Savate and Muay Thai as our kicking system, and then we get a little step closer. We use Kali, we use Wing Chun for trapping system. Because it's the more the sensitivity part of it, and we do a lot of Bruce Lee stuff.
The balls.
Mhm.
And then we start throwing system. The thing is that I always like about the system that we do is that it's just like music, and it's your own song, and you're developing different music styles, and you're putting it in yourself. And everybody that goes through the door of the Kali group martial arts should look differently. And that's why I like the learning that that I want our education system to do is that you have it here, you pick and choose what you want or what you like. It's all it's all there, but we should have something in all the ranges. And then the farther out ranges, I mean, we use Kali sticks and swords and staffs, and farther out, I mean, I'm good with a weapon, and I mean, it just
Good.
goes.
Sorry about your wall the other
You
day.
need
guys.
martial arts if you
Throwing
got a
that
weapon.
dart or that
That's-
star. Sorry about
For
that.
those of you should know that good is an understatement. I mean, you would be dead within a matter of a millisecond with this guy with a knife. So,
He was a former MP. Let's just set that
And-
up first. He's
but-
not some
but
psycho
that's
with a weapon.
where the sparring helped me out because it helped me gauge what somebody's abilities are. And when I knew that they were better than me in close, I would have to kind of play the chess game and try to move out and move around and keep a distance so I could move in. I'd have to use my legs a little bit more. I'd have to use the tree trunks a little bit more. I'd have to kind of hunker down a little bit more. But in close fighters that were good, like boxers, or another
It's funny because the Tai Chi
tough.
Chuan has gotten such a misnomer.
If I had to fight any of you guys, I would win. You know why? And this is a meme too. I also saw this on the internet. Dude is in the hood, goes up to a dude, picks a fight, and literally just takes off his
all his clothes.
he takes off his clothes and
I
gets
saw
naked,
that.
Yeah.
and the black guy just runs away. Like, holy fuck, no, I'm not doing this.
But
Gross.
I think
And
everybody has a big misconception of Tai Chi Chuan.
Bruce Lee's 1-inch punch.
Yep, exactly.
from,
That's-
Oh,
yeah, and
They were
Right up
all
there,
in
Matt.
actually-
I saw that movie with
On the wall.
Tai
what's her
Chi
name?
punch.
you know, it's really funny.
What was the
since-
Quentin
There are no
Tarantino
punches in
movie
Tai Chi.
with
Actually, it's a push. Everything's
Yeah.
Uma Thurman? Remember, she was like,
So a lot
Oh,
of
she plucked that guy's eyeball out.
that was Kill
yeah,
Bill.
yeah, but she was
But-
trying to break out of the thing, but she only
Oh,
went
the
inch for it.
coffin.
Anyway,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
the coffin
anyway,
one
going
where
back,
she was in that.
Yep.
Anyway.
a lot of people don't know this, but a lot of people think that Bruce Lee's first system was Wing Chun,
Yeah.
and it wasn't. It was Tai Chi Chuan. And
Oh,
when he was-
really?
when he was a little kid, yeah. So he was learning from his
Yeah.
family members before he got in with Ip Man. But you know, there's a lot to systems that people don't get, and we just only get it through, like karate, for instance. And this is the biggest pet peeve of mine when I see
Oh, here we go.
karate school, right?
karate?
It says
You mean
karate, and then you go in and they're doing taekwondo, and
Here we go. Oh, with the Taekwondo, you mean?
yeah. So
God.
and taekwondo's from Korea.
You're really
and,
into
it.
and karate means empty hand, in Japanese, and
Yeah.
and so, but anyway, yeah, that's the hard thing is how people have, to the outside person, it's all martial arts or it's all karate. Everything's karate. They just
So- In terms of not making this an MMA podcast, the Twins
Yeah.
just won their 13th game in a row tonight.
Nice. Not
And-
really.
Yes. Do you know what the record is for
15?
the most wins in a row by a baseball team?
15?
Oh,
I
look
just
it up.
looked this up.
How many?
Well, no, Gene, don't spoil it, but you can look it up. I already looked it up. But the movie Moneyball, did you ever see Moneyball?
Oh, yeah.
The Oakland A's, they won 20. It was either 19 or 21 games in a row. It was a big deal. But the Twins are on a roll right now, 13 games in a row. Any guesses? And I'm going to tell you, it's the freaking
I know,
Yankees,
I
for
know.
fuck's sake.
What?
And it's also a very long time ago. But
Gee,
I'm not a trivia guy, so
Gene's
I'm a sports
looking it
trivia guy.
Gene's looking
He's
it up.
cheating.
you guys, so the record, we know it's more than 20. I'll just say that. But it's
Not the Cleveland Guardians. No.
that was 22 back in 2017.
Oh, okay. Is this the American League, right?
Yeah, well, all of
Duh.
baseball, American and
Chicago
Yeah,
Cubs? No, they're tied for second with 21 consecutive. So
no, it was the New York Yankees in 20. I'm sorry,
New
In
York
20 yeah,
Giants in 1916.
1916.
There
New
they
York,
go.
There
yeah,
you go.
26 of them.
That was
Yeah,
like
26 in a row.
stereo.
Yeah. Well, here I want to bring this back to that because he's our guest, so I want him to
Yeah,
speak.
I was
yeah.
going to
on
make
it.
a point too. Like,
How's it going?
I not a point, but shared like at middle school I taught to. There was a guy who taught kung fu after school,
Mhm.
like these, and that would keep kids in school.
Mhm.
And they were, you know, you think about these extracurricular opportunities,
Mhm.
bands, music,
Mhm.
all these things to connect. They keep people in school.
Mm-hmm.
That's-
That's the whole thing, is that, and that's the problem, is that we're not okay. And so
It's a
I've gotten
discipline, it's a
I've gotten in
passion,
trouble
it's
for this a
things.
couple of times, and I'm going by I don't know if you ever heard of the psychologist Yak Pangsek. He was introduced. I'm a big fan of Jordan Peterson. I don't know if you know that is or not. But
He's from Canada.
He's from Montreal, yeah, he's from Canada. And he was talking about this, and he should have won the Nobel Prize for this, but he's the one that found that rats giggle when you tickle them, but also that rats will engage in rough and tumble play. Male rats will, and they have to have it, because if you keep them from it, it will cause symptoms that are the same as ADHD symptoms, and Ritalin works on it. But which is really interesting is they play games, right? And so rats will wrestle all the time with multiple rats, and if there's a little rat and a big rat, the big rat will win. But if the big rat doesn't, and the little rat has to ask the big rat they have to like do the pouncing thing, I guess. And if the big rat doesn't let the little rat win at least 30% of the time, the little rat won't ask the big rat to play anymore. Okay, so which is really
I don't wanna play
interesting.
with you
Which is really
It's super
interesting because if
Like
you
when a
look at human
Parent
interaction,
plays with a child.
well, all animals
let my
do
kid
this.
win.
Boys have to have this, and little
Russell.
boys that don't get rough and tumble play as a child growing up I see it because you see these are the kids that want to spar all the time. They want to they want to be rough all the time because they never got that reciprocal engagement. And this is a big problem in schools because the worst thing to
Don't
do
get in a
to
fight.
the
Yeah,
worst thing you do
yeah.
to a little boy
Yeah.
is to put them, well, first of all, is to have an adult watch them and not let them have exploratory play and let them figure stuff out on their own. And the other big problem is that you're not letting them wrestle or have
This is going to be very
control
un-PC.
contact. Yes.
But when I grew up, we played a game called Smear the Queer. Remember? You would throw the football, and whoever had the football was it. And you would have 8 guys running for you to tackle you, and they would smear the queer. It was like, could you imagine doing that today?
Yeah.
And then we also had a game where we would line up.
Dodgeball.
Dodgeball, right? And then we would also have a game where we had to run from one side of the outside of the school against a brick building wall to the other side. And once you ran, there was 7 or 8 people with tennis balls that would just throw it at you. If you got hit with a tennis ball, you were out. It was like, holy shit.
Well, that's the whole thing is that we
God, I
need
don't
to
know how
have
we
that.
survived.
I don't know. How
Yeah, I know, but we need to have that. We need to have those rite of ascensions.
I
you know?
Maybe
I
this is also
remember-
Patrick's in the nurse's office. He got hit by a tennis ball before school even started, but he's going to be fine. We gave him some laws. We gave him some things, and he stuck some shit
Here's
up
your
his nose. He's
sucker.
fine.
Go to class.
Yeah. Here's your sucker. Yeah. Oh yeah. You wanted to get sick at school
that's
because you
at-
get a sucker.
It's
Go ahead.
interesting the research, 30% time. You better have an incentive to play a little bit.
Yeah.
If you just constantly get pounded, you're
Yep.
not going to keep it up.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's it. That's
that's
it's so
like
funny.
I know we talked about home ec and shop, but what about that?
You
Like, that whole thing is gone.
I
Like,
think
it's all
every
paper and
every
tests.
kid
It's all
should.
just so hard.
In Japan,
like-
they have kinjutsu. They have the sword play that the kids do.
That was recess.
yeah, and
recess.
I mean, it's
Well,
was
in the
re-
50s, the kids used to take their guns to school and then have shooting
Yeah,
practice.
they did have shooting practice. I remember
What?
that.
I'm serious.
But now I'm
They had gun
familiar
ranges at
with.
school. Maybe they should start arming students again. The way things are going, you know what I'm
But
saying?
that
Who's
was
gonna go to
gun
a school and
safety.
Shoot it up. If all the kids
Back
had
in
a
the day,
fucking
back in the
22
50s,
rifle.
all the kids went through gun safety. They did. And
Well,
they,
Israel kids go to school with guns. They
Yeah,
do.
they do.
100%
you have to
Israel
spend
kids go to
every
school.
Israeli
with a gun.
has to spend at least 2 years
military.
in military service. Yeah, everyone.
Right.
Male, female,
And
it
when they
doesn't
go to
matter.
school, they
But-
carry a gun.
But I think that every child that's going through school, one thing should be all the camping and wood, being in the woods. They should all learn all the basic skills. You have to learn to work with wood. You have to learn to work with what metal. You have to learn to work with all the things we have to buy in society. You have to buy paint. You have to, these are the things that make up life, right? And negotiating prices and all of that stuff. I mean, and having skills, kids. It's so sad when you have a high school kid that has never been fishing before,
Oh, I know.
and that's just it's sad to me.
yeah.
Or sitting around a fire.
Start a fire.
Exactly.
yeah.
They don't know how to start.
That's the funnest thing to do with kids is
Yeah.
like go through fire building.
So maybe they should have
Yeah.
something up like with the Native
And they love
American
it.
community, and all the kids from here go up there and have to live with them or go out into the woods and do all Native American stuff. You
And
just
how many
learn
are going
about-
to come back?
Well, hopefully all of them.
Most of them.
Well,
Most
and
of them, I'd say.
especially for native
take.
kids
Yeah.
who are in the urban environment too, like that culturally appropriate education and
Mhm.
those
Well, like,
indigenous
But when you
knowledges.
take an urban,
Yeah.
when you
That's
take an
a-
urban
that's
kid
a-
into a
That's a
But
real,
camping
like, there's a whole
situation,
field of
it's-
STEM, just
Mhm.
about that, like,
Sorry.
colonized
Right.
sort of has, colonization has taken a lot, from all of us, but in particular, indigenous
True,
people and
true.
native people in the city. So reconnecting. So it's just as important for it's really important for everybody. So
Yeah. The education system has to go back to, I think, more skilled ability and doing stuff with your hands,
Right.
doing stuff, making, creating, working with, because it's a funny thing is like all the housing thing is, and I get a kick out of this. Owning a house is not easy. It's very difficult.
Nope.
tell me about it. I'm
Yeah.
getting a roof right now. It's like
Exactly. And trying to negotiate
never
prices.
That's why I rent.
Yeah, and but rental is funny. My mortgage was the same as my studio apartment for my 2,000 square foot townhome, and but if things break, buying things to fix things, the adulting thing is not something that should be taken lightly. And going from choosing a field is the major thing that kids don't want to do, is choosing that field of. You got to pick something. You can't just wander through life and not pick anything. You got to pick something, and even if it's not for a very long time, at least try.
Well, and
sorry, I'll say one thing and I'll
No.
stop. Like, I think what's key there is exposing or having a lot of different opportunities. Like, back to this original, we started out saying there's too many
Right.
opportunities. I don't agree with that. I think there needs to be a lot of opportunities, and people need to go and they find out, I think I like this. No, I'm going to play piano. Well, no, maybe I'm going to switch to a different. You need that switching. They need to be able to those opportunities to investigate.
Yeah.
And when you really lock down students to a really rigid sort of program, they're not going to have those. Not everybody's going to have the opportunities to explore these different interests unless you have access to them outside of the school.
Right.
And I think that's where the equity conversation comes in. Not equity as we're talking about it right
Right,
now,
right,
whatever,
right.
politically, but like in terms of like opportunities,
Right.
and
Well,
extracurricular, additional opportunities, like why bring camping?
Well, but
or
like
something that,
you
or the
were
after school karate club, whatever it is. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, I mean, you did a lot of after school activities. You were a incredible hockey player.
I mean, just sport. Well,
I mean, you were good. I mean, you played
You would've
JV,
never
played
scored on
varsity.
me.
Oh my God,
Never would
Matt,
have scored on me.
you were
I was a goalie at
talented.
St.
I'll
Louis
tell you
Park,
that.
man.
we
I was
hung
a
out
goalie.
at the rink across
we-
from Brett's house, and that's all
Sitzer
we did
Park,
for
and
3 months out of the year.
That's
you know?
all we did.
Nice.
Our parents would be like,
Feral.
yeah, it was
Okay,
funny
and
because
Matt, I
Matt's
liked you
mom would
before,
call
now
my
I
mom,
love you 'cause you're a
and
hockey
then
player.
my mom would whistle, and that meant we had to go. So
That was a dinner call, right?
no, yeah, it was dinner call,
Yeah.
but we would. I mean, Matt, myself, and our friend Gary, we lived at at Sitzer Park. Literally, as soon as we got home from school, grabbing the skates, grabbing the puck, and the
a
stick,
rink
and
rat.
we were over there.
The whistle was a
always.
prehistoric dinner call.
Yeah.
What
But-
I meant by the too many opportunities is that kids are exposed now through the internet and everything, that there's so many different types of fields that they're knowledgeable about, right? So, I mean, just look at martial arts.
Right.
Back in the day, nobody knew what Tai Chi Chuan was.
Yeah.
Okay, and unless you really got into it, it was only karate and taekwondo, and nobody, and even today, not too many people even know
Karate.
what Bruce Lee
You're saying
did.
it wrong.
They don't know what Bruce Lee did. They liked Bruce Lee, but they didn't know his system, or they didn't know what Kali was. Right.
But the thing is, the point though is that we had, like, when you're talking about opportunity, you're absolutely right, because for us not getting into trouble, and we could have gotten into a lot of trouble. In fact, we did get into some trouble. But what kept us out of a lot of trouble was having activities, and a lot of different activities. What were we doing if it wasn't winter and we weren't skating? What were we doing?
Well, here's the, okay.
Well, you were playing soccer.
So it's free play. It's
Or
free.
I did
it's-
BMX biking. And
Right,
So-
and that-
I've met up with
yeah,
my
we did.
buddies at the trail.
So the
You know what I
problem,
mean?
the problem that what's happening, and Peterson talks about this in his book 12 Rules, is that when a kid is skateboarding, don't bug him.
Right.
And you don't want to put rules on kids. You want them to
Right.
be able to negotiate and develop their own rules. And instead of
Agency.
instead of having the parent
Let them break the rules.
Yep,
Let them skateboard.
yep, and let them figure it out. Let them figure it out on their own instead of always
Yep.
going to an adult to figure those things out. The other thing is that the landscape now has changed. I saw this somewhere, and it was a kid that was outside, and he was pounding on the the kitchen window, and his dad was washing dishes, and he's like, "Dad, when can I come in? How long do I got to be out here?" He's like, "You're grounded for another hour. Go out and play." And he wanted to come in the house, to get back on his
From the
video
garden,
game.
Right.
Right.
We used to, you
But
little
we didn't.
bitch.
I mean, remember the video
just-
game that I had?
We'd hang out in Brett's room and play guitar.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
had
was
an amp
it.
and a guitar in there.
Exactly.
That's about the extent of
Yeah,
Right.
And
I
that's
mean-
what we did.
Yeah.
And so now you have, instead of just a guitar, you have the video games, but not just one video game. You got all the different video games and all the different social media. That's what I mean by too many choices. And so they
Right.
can't,
I can agree with that.
they can't tap into one because there's so many things out there I want to do, especially if you're high trait openness. If you're high trait openness, that can be a problem because you want to try everything. You want to do everything. It's like, oh, I want to do that. Oh, I want to do that. I want to do that. And that was me. By the way, that's why I have
me
a
too.
craft room. That's why I have a workshop.
I'll
That's
be
why I have a
honest.
wood shop. I mean, and I want to do a little bit of everything.
What did you do, Patrick?
No, I am addicted. I'm 100% gonna say I'm addicted to social media, like 6 platforms, and I'm addicted to like 17 games on Call of Duty because it's instant gratification all the time,
Yep.
whenever I want it. And now I'm on Twitch, and now I'm just broadcasting to the world, like, hey, like it's
so-
just crazy.
Well, that's
I remember Patrick. Patrick got me addicted to SOCOM 2. Way
SOCOM, yes.
way back then, and it was all online. So we'd go to the bar and we drink, and it's like, I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna go home too. So we could get home, and then because we have a buzz on, and then we would hook up online and play SOCOM 2, and Patrick would kill me all the time. And finally, I'm like, I'm not playing with you anymore.
So when you played, so you were playing guitar for a long time.
Yeah.
Did you get into any other instruments?
Well, yeah. Well, I played trumpet.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
middle school trumpet.
Okay.
Loved it. And then one day I'm hanging out at Brett's, and he's
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, let me show you this guitar thing," and started learning from Brett. And Brett taught me how to play guitar, and
it's
just
funny.
kind of hooked. It kind of stuck, and I played a little piano.
If you take a look at that amp right there,
It's the same one.
it's the same
Spectrum.
one. I've had that amp since I was like
Nice.
14 years old. The Epiphone pacemaker. It's the
Nice.
same amp. But
Matt, did you just play guitar or did you make any songs? Sorry, Brett. I
no. I
you
mean,
wanted to finish your thing.
I mean,
Did you did you play in a band or did you just like,
later
playing
on,
guitar?
I've played in it's kind of as an adult. I played in a couple of different bands. I'm in a band now.
Are you gonna play for us?
I'll play something. Sure,
Really?
if you want
Should I-
sometime.
acoustic?
That's a
to
Brett's
go
got a special
go
guitar
grab
for
that
you.
Tacoma.
Okay,
yeah.
be right back.
So let me
Okay,
let
do
me
you have
grab that
what bands
Tacoma.
are you in? I'm interested. I'm
Do you have a
interested.
nut?
What bands?
Nothing that's popular really. I played in a band
I've
called
probably heard of them.
Ham and Angst in the
No.
90s, the early 20s. Yeah, it's kind of a
What's it called?
Well,
Ham and Angst.
Ham and Angst. Oh my God, that's a great fucking band.
We
Okay, anyway.
almost won best band name when City Pages was out and a thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
but we
know,
didn't
but,
win it.
But I mean, it's
still pissed
crazy
about
because I mean, I remember looking at a post from you from 2019,
Yeah.
like 6 years ago.
Yep.
And you had played in St. Anthony
Yeah.
for like before the fireworks.
Fireworks at
And
the
you had thousands of people,
Yep.
and there you are with your
Stone
guitar
Arch Bridge.
smiling,
Yeah.
and there was like a sea of people that you played to.
Yeah.
I mean, how was that?
That was really awesome and the reason we got that gig is a guy in the band works for the park board, Taylor. It was his band. He's a bass player, phenomenal musician,
Nice.
and songwriter. And yeah, that band was great. It's called Trey Aaron Band. Gigged a lot, got a lot of great gigs.
Are you just would you
I play electric in that band.
Okay, so
Do you know a lot of the scene people like
Not
Minneapolis
really, not
music's-
on the scene, but the band
Do you
I
know who
played.
Jeremy Yovasaker is?
No.
Oh, okay.
Well, what's the
I'm not-
genre that you play now?
Yeah, so I think this current group I'm playing in now, there's another guys my age, and then there's a couple of people that are in their 40s. They're really into like the trip hop and Amy Winehouse. So I think of Bjork, just electronic stuff. So it's kind of a blend of stuff. So I'm not sure where it's going right now. But
what's your favorite genre of music?
Man,
Yeah, you've done a lot of anything from Van Halen to.
Well, let's break it down. Rock, hip hop, or we can go
rock, paper, scissors,
jazz. We can go country.
Like for me, influence wise, like in my guitar playing, is a lot of classic rock.
Okay.
But then blues, classical, and jazz, like Coltrane and reggae. Huge into reggae, and it like surf and ska. Little grunge.
Have you
heavy metal stuff?
You're influenced by like the whole,
world
whole
Afrobeat.
Scape, yeah.
The Afrobeat.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what's your favorite Leonard Skinner song, and why is it?
We listened to
Tuesday's
Leonard
Gone?
Skinner back in the day, though.
Because I'm gonna have to think.
What were you
about
guys?
that
Okay,
one.
in high school,
Knock
what were you
3
guys-
times.
In high school, what were you guys listening
Simple
to?
Man's pretty nice.
Simple Man is awesome.
In high school, what were you guys listening to?
I did Tuesday's Gone because actually
That's a great
evokes
song,
lot
too.
more emotion than Simple Man.
I
but-
love ballads.
Was you a ballad guy?
What?
I'm a ballad guy. I
So-
love ballads. Yeah.
So here's the thing I've learned in radio over the years, and this is baffling to me because I was listening to a record executive in my boss's office in Sacramento talking about this. There's two ways people listen to music, and one is like rhythm and drums and the music, and some people hear lyrics like you're reading a book.
Mm-hmm.
I am not that guy. I hear
Me either.
dun, 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 and then I realize after a while they're like, we came from the ship and then Cyprus and so on, and I'm listening to like Led Zeppelin, the Viking song, right? And I'm like, oh God, they're actually talking about Vikings. And we sail our ships through the land. And I was just like, holy shit, it's 100% true.
I'm the
And
love ballad guy.
If you listen to Tool, you are not listening to the lyrics at first, but you got to be listening. But I don't know. I was just going to make that point. Like, how do you guys hear music or write it or play it? Like, is it the vibe and the music first, or is it lyrics in your head? Because I know this is like an age-old question, and Stacy asked it a couple of weeks ago, but everyone's different, and I find that fascinating.
Yeah, for me, it's music and emotion. Usually when the songs come out, some are,
Right.
work, you kind of get a riff and it's like, oh, that's a cool riff. What can I do with that? Sometimes there's songs that just come out of you all in one piece.
Oh,
Those are
okay.
special. Those are
without putting you on spot,
special
I
moments.
agree.
But
Like,
I am
when
not
you-
a
when
lyric
you-
guy. Yeah, I'm not a
So
lyric guy.
some people can't
My
write lyrics. Like I'll
dogs
use
have
Scott Weiland from
fleas.
SDP as an example.
Yeah.
He had a hard time being sober because when he was sober, he couldn't write. He had to get fucked up to write music. Stone Temple Pilots.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's 100%
Well,
true.
but
he
that's the
fucking
same
told
with
it to me on
American
a
Head
fucking tour
Charge.
bus once.
I mean,
American Head Charge too.
yeah,
Yeah,
so,
they
I
had to
mean-
be high and they had to be drunk and they had to be raw, and that's how they got to where they go. So like, I just have a hard time. Like, I don't know. Do you have to do anything? It doesn't have to be drugs or alcohol, but does it have to be like a place?
Is
or
there
a
is there
feeling or
something that you have to kind of put yourself into in order to get
right? You're
Yeah.
canoeing on a river and it's
Right.
quiet.
Like your
and you're
trigger.
I think it's really hard to manufacture. Honestly, I'm Brett. Maybe you
There's a
expound
feel
on this too.
Yeah.
It's, sometimes you have peak emotions, and you're expressing yourself, and something's just maybe built up and that comes out.
Well, and then for me, when I
Other times it is just kind of hard work. It's you get a kind of a cool riff, sometimes by accident. A lot of stuff I've come up by messing up.
right, oh
And
yeah,
I'm like, that's
absolutely.
pretty cool. And then you just work at it and work at it and work at it.
And then you come back to it, maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I mean, off camera, what people don't see is that I have a recording studio over here. And I went and I had one of my buddies who's in tech build me an old school that I could do SPDIF. So I could do very, right out. I have a Spark 2. So with my tablet and the Spark, I can come up with all sorts of different tones that are solid state. but nothing compares to that warm tube sound that comes out of an amp. So I have a Mesa Boogie with a Gens Bend system. So I wanted to be able to use both. So he created a system using Windows 7 and an old school Digio 2, which is Firewire, but it allows me to do the solid state and the warmth that I get from the tube amp, but I have to do it on Windows 7 because it's old. And that's what I wanted to use for the tube amp. So I can go back and forth with that. But what I found is like I would dink around and I would find something that's like, oh, this is pretty cool. And I would go to the just fire it up, and then I would record that fill or that chord modulation, and I'd do that, and I'd be like, I put the date and then the idea number 1 on this date. So I might put something together later, and I'm like, oh man, you know what? This would sound good with that one thing that I did on this date. And I would listen to that, and then I would mold them together. And all of a sudden, I mean, from 5 different little licks or chord modulations, I came up with a song. But it was different. It was, it might take 4, 5, 6 months, and all of a sudden I have a song because I put different ideas together that matched, that I didn't have before. I would have forgotten, and I have forgotten. I'm like, oh, I wish I would have remembered that lick because this would sound great here if I didn't put it down. Yeah. So that's how my mechanics were, is that I would take ideas and I would put them on a track.
Nice.
And then I would start putting them together. Like the theme song that we have for the podcast here, I built that song.
I was wondering about that. I heard that.
It should definitely get a Grammy.
Yeah, I built that song basically for the podcast because I'm like, I got to come up with something, with licensing and something like that. What can I do here? I'm like, oh, you know what? I got a couple ideas. And I went back and I checked the ideas and I put them together and I made, a 2-minute song. And then I just cut down to maybe 30 seconds for the intro. But that's how I did the intro. So those of you thinking, what's the intro? Well, that was me.
So let me ask you this though. So
right.
are you a guitarist or a musician first? Do you sing at all?
Ooh, I sing a bit. I'm not a super confident singer.
Okay.
But I do like to express myself that way. But
so it's funny
in the shower, right?
Yeah. So I'm kind of a shower singer.
My guitar
on stage, but
my guitar came from singing. I like to sing, so I wanted to have something to accompany it. And I know a lot of my friends that play guitar. There's like, I can play guitar, but I can't sing with it. And it's kind of funny because how we get introduced to music. And, you said you were a ballad guy, and I'm all about the words and the story of the song. I just started getting into Jelly Roll, a couple of his songs, and the messages that he has. But the music, why we pick acoustic, or we kind of get into that between, like my friend John wants me to play electric, and I'm like, I just like the acoustic guitar.
Well, wait though, because Matt will attest to this. For a guitar player, guitars are like potato chips.
Okay.
You can't have just one.
That's why I just want to stick to the acoustic.
And that's the thing, because I've got 5 guitars.
Yeah.
5.
Yes.
And I finally kind of went, I got to be done. I got to be done with this. And Gene's like, do you want another guitar? I'm like, no, stop. No. But I have an old school Tacoma, hand-built in Tacoma, Washington.
Right here.
I have my Gibson Les Paul Jr. I have my Paul Reed Smith CE24. I have my Fender Telecaster Pro 2. And I got my Fernandez bass. I've got all these things that I use when I do recording.
I know you have a pick in your pocket. Yep.
Yeah, a guitar player always has a pick.
Yep.
And there is the pick. Folks, the pick is right here.
What kind of picks? What do you think of those picks?
I love it. This. I'll be honest with you. This is the only pick that I buy now. This one right here.
What is this? Okay, is this? It looks like it's a thick one, so it's a heavier thickness.
It's a good nylon.
This is not a product placement.
No, but I like this pick because it's got on the top. It's kind of rough and rigid, so you hold
Brett,
on
you should
to
put
it.
his mic down by the.
And it sounds great. So
no, yeah. Are you going to sing? Are you going to sing and play?
So I was going to say, I may need a couple more beers.
You could do Brett. You could put this.
Oh, that sounds good.
How's that sound?
Can you hear it?
Yep, I can totally.
We can hear it on this end, Patrick. How about you?
Okay. All right. Yeah, no, my audio is always going to be effed because of Discord, so don't ask me.
Well, what's wrong
I
with
do have
you?
a point to ask.
All right, so
I
ladies
wanna
and
ask Matt
gentlemen,
something
we're
that
gonna turn everything over to Matt, and he's gonna play a little bit of something.
Is this an original?
You know, I'm trying to figure out what to play. Because I'm not like a singer songwriter. I'm usually like playing a jams, and the guitar player just sits there and plays a rhythm or wails.
That's cool.
So, trying to think of some stuff I could do. You got a request? I mean, I could do some jazzy, bluesy kind of stuff.
Bluesy stuff is always good in my
always
book.
do,
Love that.
Oh, you know any
Patrick?
Bismarcky?
Well, Patrick actually had a show Loud and Local, so he always, got bands on and stuff like that. What
I like
what
Nick
would you
Butts
like?
and I cannot lie.
No, I'm the one that likes the big butts. Patrick.
Oh, sorry. No, I don't know. Do you have originals or do you like to do covers?
Yeah, I do have some originals.
Look, what about everyone's got to play Iris by Goo Goo Dolls.
Right.
That would be my favorite song. Like, no,
Got that one. I could play.
you make me cry if you do. I'll cry on the podcast if you do that. What about any Soul Asylum? Do you cover any Soul Asylum?
No soul.
Just
sound.
play something that you want to play.
Husker Du, something
Just let him play
Minneapolis.
whatever he wants.
Purple Rain, like something. what can we tie into?
See if I can do this one.
Brett, his cord's in the way.
Wichita lineman.
The which one?
Wichita lineman. Jimmy
Oh
Webb,
no, never heard.
Glenn Campbell.
I do like. Did you ever get into the Kopecky family band? She's a local, but anyway. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Let's see if I can pull this one off. It's kind of my own interpretation of it.
Nice. Yeah.
Right on.
So, okay,
Right
so
on.
of the styles of guitar, do you like to use a pick? Do you like to finger pick? Do you like to?
I like to finger pick.
I like finger pick.
You like
Gene,
finger picking?
Finger picking,
Take a
yeah.
timeout. Go take
Yeah.
a 3-minute timeout. You need to go
Gene.
upstairs for 3 minutes. That's,
I
that
love
was
you.
inappropriate.
I love you too.
Yeah.
Nylon strings for acoustics are my favorite. So
Oh, no.
And these are
Full-
these steel strings are pretty heavy.
Oh,
Yeah.
those are.
Hey, so
More
because
folky
I'm
song,
bringing flavor and entertainment to the podcast, I'm dropping in with my second trivia question tonight. Do you guys know who Max Martin is? You ever heard of Max Martin?
Nope.
nope.
I guarantee you've heard his music. This guy, and I learned this when I was in radio here in Sacramento because we had my boss actually told
Pulling it
me
up,
the
Gene.
story. He has 27 number one hits since
I want to
1999.
hear something.
And I'm talking about smashes,
Mac?
Bangers.
Baby One More Time by Britney Spears.
What's his
It's
name?
Yeah.
Gotta
Get
Be
out.
Me, In Sync. I Kissed a Girl, Katy Perry, and so on and so forth.
So he wrote those
Max
songs?
Martin. What's that?
He wrote those songs or?
He wrote them, yes.
Okay.
And he continues to write to this day.
So is he known
This
as a
guy-
ghostwriter?
No, he's not a ghost. Well, I don't know. I don't know what a ghostwriter means per se.
So
But
so what you're saying is he's like Desmond Child that
He's a
writes all these
Swedish
songs
record
for everybody.
producer and songwriter.
he was an ABBA back in the day, or was associated with ABBA.
Oh,
you know.
okay. We all know ABBA.
And the story is when he writes a song, he goes to a mall or a fair or a public place and just observes people. And when they're fighting, he's like, I'm fighting with you and I don't know why. Everybody's got to give it a try. Like he just starts jotting shit down.
Wow.
And
You know, to
that-
book him,
like,
it costs $75,000 to $150,000 just to book him.
Jeez.
right. But pretty much every Katy Perry song, every boy band song, every Taylor Swift, well, not all the Taylor Swift, but yeah, Shake It Off by Taylor Swift. Yeah, because some artists write their own music,
See,
but some of them just
what
want
I
to
just-
go into
yeah,
a
they
studio
don't wanna
and just
sing
be
it.
like, give me your
This is what I
shit.
don't understand.
And
is
the
how-
labels love it because
Yeah.
they're like, yeah, we're going to make $1 million. So they book Max Martin, and I'm sure it's way more than $150,000. I think that's for an event. But to write a song, he's probably got a fucking encyclopedia.
I just don't
But
get how
my
people
point
do
is,
that.
it's just amazing that he can just go sit. His key quote, from what I remember, was, "I just go to the mall and I observe people, and I write down what they're feeling or looking like."
That's
Wow.
the that's
And
it. See, that's
that's
a lot
it.
of like John Denver got on the Calypso and he just wrote that song in like 15 minutes, you know. And I just don't
Yeah.
understand how people do that. They just kind of they can tap into the world that's around them right now or whatever they're going through. You know, obviously country songs.
Did
are
you know
made by
John
breakups.
Denver wrote a lot of his hits in Edina, Minnesota, sitting in a hotel?
Did he
'Cause
really?
he
Are
was
you- you're
separated
kidding,
from his
right?
wife.
Really?
Yeah, Gene, Google that.
Well,
Google
I'm looking
Denver,
at Max
Edina.
Martin, and he highlighted ABBA, Kiss, Prince.
Wow.
What song
Yep.
did you write
Yeah.
at Kisses?
Let's see.
Let's put the.
I was a big
X
Kiss
effect.
fan in the late
I think every
70s.
No, he probably
everybody
did
was.
the,
Never
the
liked
disco
Kiss.
song,
Never really-
actually, when
Not
Kiss
sure.
was irrelevant.
Oh
during
yeah,
the disco
remember
era.
Dynasty? I think that was
Oh, yeah.
their
Yeah.
disco album.
What am I supposed to look
Except
up?
for Detroit Rock and City.
Detroit
Oh,
Rock
sorry,
City. Yeah.
John Denver,
John
Edina,
Denver,
Minnesota.
Edina,
Oh,
Minnesota.
okay.
He died flying in
And
Minnesota.
He died in a
No, he
plane-
didn't die there. No,
He
he
died in a
wrote
plane crash.
He
a lot
wrote
of his
stuff here.
hits.
Yeah.
I think he was married to a Minnesota girl, but she was doing something, and he was holed up in a hotel
That wasn't Annie,
for
was
like
it?
3 weeks and wrote a whole fucking album, and it turned out to be all of his hits.
Yeah, he had a home in Edina. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Oh, that's
any more?
John
No.
Denver had a home in Edina.
I didn't.
Wow.
No,
And I was a
think
big
he
John
just in a
Denver fan.
hotel.
I didn't know. Interesting.
John Denver.
So back in the
hit
day,
songs Edina.
back in the day, what was your favorite band? Like
Oh,
you
me?
know, when we were going in high school.
High school.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of weird. I was really into 60s and 70s stuff.
Yeah. What?
Pretty
Who?
heavy,
who?
like the classics like the Doors, the
Yeah.
Blues,
Yeah, the
Eric Clapton,
Doors.
Cream. I was really into
Yeah.
blues. I kind of found blues, and I got
Okay.
into Muddy Waters a little bit.
I
through
remember-
Eric Clapton, like a lot of
I remember
people,
listening
gateway
to
drugs.
Eric Clapton, Aerosmith. I remember
Aerosmith,
listening to the Doors with you. But the
Yeah.
big thing was the big new thing. I remember when you brought home that Van Halen one album,
Oh.
and I never heard what's Van Halen, and you're like, no, listen to this, and then you put on Eruption, and I sat there and I was like, who are these gods? These musical geniuses.
Totally.
In
Right?
my head, I was like, I was speechless. I just sat there. I was looking at you, and I'm like,
Here's
we're
what
not
yeah,
worthy.
Van Halen.
We're not worthy.
Here's
I'm
what-
gonna be
I still
trivia
feel-
guy
I still
again.
feel
don't know
that
why I'm on
way
a trivia
at-
roll,
at
but
my age right
Van
now, I still feel
Halen.
that
You
way.
remember what their original name was going to be?
Oh yeah.
Well,
I can't
didn't his
remember
kid?
off the top of my head, but-
It was going to be Mammoth.
Mammoth, and his kid has a
David Lee
band
Roth
called
said-
Mammoth.
Name it Van Halen. David Lee Roth actually said name it Van Halen. That sounds cool. That
That's
sounds
because he
kinda
was
like-
referring to his
So
junk.
I'm gonna make a correct statement, and I don't think anybody can argue with this. We for 1985 graduates grew up in the greatest genre or era of music from what we got from
I feel excluded.
the because our parents listen. I mean, my parents
Graduated
listen
in
to
90,
the
dude.
Platters,
I'm an
Marty
alien.
Robbins, all
Yeah,
some
Gene and I
Elvis,
are like-
obviously Elvis.
We're aliens.
and so
They need DEI training.
and so it's going through, and then we got Led Zeppelin, we got Pink Floyd, we Journey. I mean, Foreigner. Come on, we got some of the greatest music I think ever
Yep,
that they're
Pink
still
Floyd.
looking at today.
Yeah, but we got Creed and we
Norwegian
got Limp
Wood,
Bizkit.
Yeah.
So
But we
you
got
could
all that
suck
too,
all
though.
that.
We got all that too, though. We got all that too.
We got Judas
I was a
Priest.
Creed fan.
Oh, Juice Priest.
Yeah, you know what? It was funny because
Gina
Matt,
had this
you got
conversation.
to talk about this. So, I remember Gina and I were watching TV, and I got a text from Matt, and Matt's like, "Hey, are you here?" And I'm like, "Where's here?" And then he sends a picture, and he's at the Armory
Yeah.
This was just recently.
Yeah,
recently,
this is
and he's
A
at
year ago? Yeah,
he's
year
at
and a half?
Oh,
Judas
okay.
Priest.
Maybe.
And I didn't even know
Oh.
Judas Priest was playing. We're like,
That's
"Oh my
right.
God, are
Yeah.
you kidding?"
And you didn't call me?
And then he was sending,
called him.
he was like right up close, and he's sending, videos. And we're like, I'm listening. It's like, oh my God. I mean,
You were probably trying to go to bed. I got to get up at 4 o'clock.
I'm like,
Morning
but
shift,
I
and you're
but
sending
keep
me
sending the
Judas
video.
I would have
videos.
came. I would have came. I would have taken Uber.
Yeah. But I mean, honestly, I mean, that band is still literally the shit.
Just the two. I mean, talk about a singer, unbelievable. And he still could sing. He could. I was blown away because a lot of times, you go to these shows as kind of older guys, and
Yeah.
there it is.
Yeah.
This is from the Armory when Ann took me to the
Also-
VIP
Yeah.
section.
Also,
Singers
the
got
first-
it. Singers got it the hardest, right? I think, because guitar player, you still, as long as your
Yeah.
fingers are working, you can play. But singing, the pipes go. But Halford, he didn't miss a beat, man.
KK Downey's not in that.
Neither
No, not
of the
anymore.
original guitar players were there, but they still.
He was
It was
also
solid.
the first
Yeah.
Still really
Yeah.
solid.
Yeah.
But
first internationally recognized gay person that
Yeah.
came out, and everyone went,
So,
right.
so what?
But
Yeah.
nobody cared.
Totally.
"So
Yeah.
he's
Exactly.
still a fucking badass."
Yeah.
You can't
Yeah.
fucking
Broke down
disrespect
some
that, right?
barriers
Yeah.
and
Yep.
metal.
I
Yep.
loved it. I loved it. I was like,
Nobody
holy
cared.
shit.
I mean, that
I
I
don't
was like,
care.
what?
I don't
that didn't matter. He had like Harley and leather,
Most
and,
musicians in our era,
and he would
hey, who
kick your
cares?
ass
I mean,
anyway. So why even
Doesn't
talk
He
matter.
would
about
blow
it?
your
Doesn't fucking
eardrums
matter.
out. He would just
But
sing a
think
note and
about
blow
that,
your
like-
eardrums out.
But he did it at a time where it still was not cool for like a NFL player to do it. That took like another 20 years. You know what I mean?
But
Well,
he's
that's what
Rob
sucks
Halford.
about it.
Yeah.
No, it was I think that's a disgrace. Like people should have been able to be. They should have that should have been the landing point for people to come out and go, okay, yeah, me too. Me too, me too,
Yep.
me too. Not in the
True
bad
that.
me too way, but you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I am that, I am this, and no one fucking did it. And it
was
was
a-
just like, oh shit. So it almost like reset us back, and then 20 years later, like Esra Tuaalo from the Minnesota Vikings did it.
Yeah.
And I think he might have been the second
with
professional
when it comes to music, I mean, it
football
seems
player
like
to do it. But
Freddie
it was like,
Mercury
God
to
damn,
David
man.
Bowie to. I mean, that was part. I think.
No, I don't want to talk about rape.
No, well, the artistic, the being artistic, that's a whole thing. So
Exactly.
I don't know. We can go into that in a different.
No,
time,
I didn't
but-
mean to use the Me Too thing, but
No,
yeah,
just
they should've-
just artistic.
like before the hashtag. Like
artistic
20, I'm
creative.
just saying, like 40 years ago, there was
Ezra
an
Tuaolo
opportunity
is
when,
I mean,
when
I
Rob did it, everyone else could have fucking done it, but I think
Right.
they
we
were
come
still
into
too
tropics
afraid
all the
to,
time.
and it
Yeah.
was-
Come into to a cowboy all the time. He he'd give me money. He'd tip me all the time. But he came in and it was Halloween when I met him.
Ezra?
Yeah, Ezra Tuolo.
Yeah.
At when I worked at Cowboys, it was Cowboys, then it turned to Tropics. But
yeah, I used to work at Tropics.
What'd you do there?
I was a bouncer. No,
I used to bash people's heads against the cement outside when they got thrown out.
Okay, so
I'm kidding. No, I didn't. I was a doorman, though. But like literally, WCCO went in there one night with a hidden camera, and they were like, "Oh, look, they're shooting fire in a bar that doesn't have a fire permit because we would light drinks on fire." And then there was like a lot of fights this night, and I don't know if it was instigated or not, but I was like on camera opening the door. And then they threw him out, and he tried to come back in the door, and I just went boom, like I pushed him, and he fell back and hit his head on the
I got
fucking
7
cement.
the WCCO guy, or just some other dude?
No, it was no. They went undercover. It was on WCCO News.
I
is what I'm
gotcha.
saying. They're like, their story was Tropics is like a problem. You know, and it was like no one's gotten stabbed or killed, but they're still going in there going, look at all these white people drinking flaming Dr. Peppers or whatever. You know, it's just like Jesus Christ, leave us alone.
Ezra used to come in all the time. He's a great singer, by the way. He's a great voice.
Yeah,
He's a wonderful
No,
singer.
he does a lot of national anthems and things.
Yeah.
So let me ask something though, Matt. Now the band that you're playing in now, do you guys gig out? Are you gigging now or?
Well, we're gonna do a gig at the White Squirrel. I think July 1st.
White Squirrel. Where's that?
It's in Lower Town, or not Lower Town. It's in like off of West 7th, kind of in St. Paul area. So
nice.
It's a cool little place. It's like a nice music, small.
Okay, so let's plug this correctly.
Yeah.
The name of your band is
Stone Cat.
Stone Cat.
Stone
playing
Cat.
at
White
the
Squirrel.
White Squirrel.
At July 1st.
July 1st.
Rigel, if you hear me out there, get that book.
Okay, so Stone Cat at the White Squirrel.
That's right.
There's a stone cat.
It's a zoo.
There's a stone
That's
cat
awesome.
chasing a white squirrel.
That is awesome.
I didn't know I had a bunch of marketing experts.
Yeah, so you're playing at the
show.
zoo with a bunch of squirrels and cats.
All right, so
And I got my
where's
social media expert right here. Is gonna
geek. I'm kind
All
of
right,
a band
so-
name geek,
Okay.
and I just
So I
loved
get-
your first band name on City Pages when you were talking about that. What
All
was
right.
it again?
Ham and Angst.
Ham and
Ham and
eggs.
eggs.
That's
Yes.
great.
Oh,
Oh,
my God.
yes,
So
I remember
now-
that.
We even had a theme song.
So Stone,
Oh my God.
so Stone Cat's playing at the White Squirrel, and where is the White Squirrel located?
It's it's in like it's in St. Paul.
You said
St. Paul.
It's
I'm
kind
not
of it's off
laughing
of
at
West
you, I'm
7,
laughing
kind of
with
like
you.
kind of
Savoy
by
or-
the old Schmidt
So-
Brewery kind of area.
So all of you out there with nothing to do on what day?
It's gonna be July 1st.
July 1st.
Yeah.
Get down
Do you have
to the White Squirrel
are
in
you
St.
the-
Paul and check
Is there a
out Matt's
pre-group
band.
band, or are you guys the main headline?
We're probably
or-
playing with somebody, but
Okay.
yeah, I don't know. The drummer's booking the gig, so
Okay,
I'm a terrible.
Yeah, you're just there.
Jared Singer's opening. That's
Let
what
me
I
ask you
heard.
this. Let me ask you this. Do you have a website, or do you have a Facebook thing, or do you have anything?
we got a SoundCloud. I actually got some files right here. I could play if you want.
Well,
play
I'll
some.
tell
Nice.
you what.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I was gonna say he's gripping that guitar like hard. Do you want to play another song to take us out or something? Or like Brett, were you kind of hinting towards going out here?
Yes.
So
Yep.
So what we'll do is at the end of the podcast here, I'm gonna, if you would like me to add that at the end of the podcast, so people can listen to Matt's music, his band, and then we'll just I'll add that so you can listen to it, and then we'll put up on our website, which will be up and running tomorrow. Matt's the day he's playing, so you can check it out. The bar, we'll get all that info on there for you too as well, so people can check it out. And you'll be able to listen to his song there, so we'll be able to do that. Did you want to play one more song on the guitar here and take us out?
Yeah, I'll play this one
No,
here.
He's been grabbing it like a little baby.
You know, once you get this
Since
thing in
Get
your
in
lap,
my
He put
belly.
a guitar in his
I
hand.
tell
I
you,
can tell
this
he
is-
loves music because he's just been like.
That's
it's
a
like
nice
one
guitar.
of the better
Chomping a
guitar
bit.
players I've ever.
That's a nice guitar, isn't it?
Sounded. Nice job, Brett. Nice job, Brett.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gene.
Yeah, Gene.
Welkom.
Other side.
Hoeveel mij de David
Other
Rietzig?
side, Brett.
Yeah.
Ja,
So,
haar hartstikke ook.
I guess you asked a question about music influences.
Brett.
I
Yeah.
my parents didn't have a lot of albums, but they had this album. It was Beatles Rubber Soul. And I think I discovered it when I was about 7 years old. And I think I played it till 10. I knew every single song. I could sing everything. I would just sit every day play the same record. So this is one off of
Nice.
that.
Okay, good.
Right
Let's
on.
hear it.
All right.
Can I take these things off? Might
Yep,
be actually
absolutely.
hard to hear yourself
It's
play.
like in his face.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Great song.
All right.
Very nice.
Very nice. Thank you, Matt, for that beautiful rendition. Folks, thanks again for tuning in at the Bar With podcast with myself, Stacy, and Patrick, and Gene, and of course, our special guest, Matt Vernon. And we will see you next time.
Very nice to meet
Thank
you,
you
Matt.
for stopping by, everybody.
All right, guys, go
Guys.
Twins.
Thanks for
Go
inviting me.
Twins.
Go Twins.
What if the rapture came and we've all been left behind? What if these final days are meant to go on and on? What if what we think we know is all completely wrong? Let's still be love, let's still be love, let's still be love, let's still be love. What if life's mysteries were never solved? What if when we're dead and gone, we're simply memories? What if all eternity is contained in the notes of a symphony? We'd still be love, there'd still be love, there'd still be love, there'd still be love. if we learned to love each other in the time we had? What if we learned to serve each other while we had the chance? What if we learned to share our joys and our burdens?